So, first topic, and as usual, I don't actually have it in front of me, so I have to look for it. First topic, should food be completely decommodified? You have 45 minutes left on the clock. Jump into it.
So
Yeah.
I don't think
Okay,
foods
so
should
someone
be
else.
completely commodified. Like, okay, so when you mean foods, you mean everything that's a food? You mean steak? That should also be completely commodified? These things that are like highly expensive that only the top 1% can afford on a daily basis, you want these things to just be free? If these things were free, why would I make it if I'm not going to get any profit incentive for making it? Why would I
Okay.
continue to make these high
You
expensive?
Does it
clearly,
taste good?
you clearly have your like knickers in a twist right now. I don't know why you're so butthurt of the idea of people eating. But first of all, when we talk about
Wait, can people eat in a
when we
commodified
talk
world?
about
This is
when we talk about
nonsense.
decommodifying things, it doesn't mean everything, right? When we talk about
Wait,
decommodifying proper,
read the
when
question. Prime, read the question. Prime, read the question.
he says, should it be completely decommodified? It doesn't say
It says
that
completely means everything.
Food, yeah, so I'm gonna go cuts on this. It means so if you're gonna completely decommodify food, then that means every single food. And so I mean, unless you want to argue that steak isn't a food, then I guess we can go on your little rant here, Katarana. That we shouldn't we should decommodify everything but steak.
Oh, it's not me today. I'm so excited.
So,
Obviously,
I'm extremely curious as to why you think that only the top 1% can afford steak, since
Yeah.
that's exactly
I
what you
said,
said. That
on
was
a
really
daily
fun,
basis,
by the way.
these steaks cost
That's
So
obviously
I got another point to make. I got another point. I know I can dunk on you, but and then make a point. So, should food be completely decommodified? The answer is no. What we should have is some kind of tax credits or some kind of credits for poor income, or maybe we should fund the already available program called food stamps a little more, or a lot more, and allow people to poor people, verified poor people, to buy food that way. And that way we don't have to go around answering the question, is steak a food that only the 1% could afford?
I'm not saying
food.
Give me a second. So I'm not saying that steak is so.
Has when LBJ spent $8 billion on each sector of welfare, one of those including food stamps, it's shown a not decrease in the poverty of the absolute poverty in those 50 years. That includes food stamps. So if you want to supply these people with food stamps, just know that one, you're creating more single parents, and two, you're not affecting poverty at all.
Wait.
I have
a question for you. Associated with lower rates of economic growth. Economic growth is a driver of lifting people out of poverty, given that it's exponential. And so a 3% rate of economic growth will double the GDP in about 23 years, while 2% growth in the GDP rate takes 35 years to double the GDP. If after that point we want to do welfare programs, then it becomes much easier when the total pie is larger. But I think that the decommodification question is a distinct one. And I think decommodification of food is obviously a bad idea. Now, I think there's a case to be made that we should give people money, enough money so that people are not starving on the street. But I don't think that making it so that food is no longer a commodity is a good idea at all, given that it would require quotas, it would require rationing, who gets food, what type of food they get, how they get food. And the only efficient way to do that is through a market system, which is why in study after study, we see that the private sector is much better at running industries than the public sector is. And in fact, even private monopolies are better at running industries.
Okay, so here's a couple questions I have. Real quick, here's a couple questions I have. One for Cutsleeve and one for Omni. Cutsleeve, I have a question for you. Do you know that food insecurity in America plummeted after we implemented food stamps?
Food insecurity.
Yeah, it was plummeting at the same rate before we implemented food stamps, and
to follow it up, because I was asking that question real quick, to follow it up, since I asked that question to Cutsleeve and you didn't let him answer. My question to you, Omni, is in that private market during COVID, did we have food surpluses or food shortages? Did our private market more efficiently guarantee us food than, say, Vietnam, where they were given actual, food, rice as a supplement from the government? Or did we have problems with Tyson having to shut down plants because they couldn't run themselves appropriately?
We had some shutting down of plants. However, we also, I think, have less food insecurity than Vietnam overall.
So here's the issue.
And we have a GDP that's many times greater than that.
So here's the issue we're failing to recognize about food stamps, right? Food stamps are consistently abused. You see this in lower income neighborhoods. You see this. The food stamps are consistently abused. They're sold to other people. And just like welfare is. So with that being said, food stamps. I mean, you can't argue that food stamps aren't consistently abused. They are. And so it actually also provides an incentive to stay poor. Because when you start making a certain amount of money over the limit, you no longer receive food stamps. Since you no longer receive food stamps, it's going to make it harder for you to try and re-budget your the money you get per month to include food. So with
here,
this being said, it's going to keep the poor poorer if you just continue with welfare and food stamps.
Real quick. Spartacus, give me 1 sec, Omni, and then sure. Spartacus, you got to the right point at the end for the wrong reasons, okay? You're right. It's really unfortunate that every goddamn human is required to eat in order to live. It's really unfortunate that you can make so much money that you get off the welfare doles, and suddenly you have to pay for your own food again, and you can't manage that because it's too economically disadvantageous to you to do so. It'd be really cool if we decommodified a lot of food, or as other people have said, rather reinforced food stamps and other programs so that that's not a problem. You don't have to worry about your job paying you a little bit more and then you suddenly can't eat. Go ahead, Omni.
Okay, so my question would be, so what would you support food stamps, for example, over a simpler scheme like a universal basic income or a negative income tax? And if so, why?
I actually support a UBI specifically because I think it's much better to not have a welfare trap wherein you could make more money and then lose out on your benefits. That said, I still support food stamps because it's one of the very obvious cases of welfare wherein giving people the access to the ability to eat will improve test scores for kids in schools, improves your ability to be productive at work, and basically has a lot of downstream effects that are worthwhile. So a UBI and food stamps, please and thank you.
Wait, so you would support having both at the same time?
Absolutely.
Why not just make the UBI more? Why make it?
Because I would also agree to that. It would be very useful if we just had a large enough UBI.
Wait.
No. Hey, let me answer. You asked me a question. Let me answer. I would prefer a large enough UBI to cover this measure, but it's very unlikely in our current America that we could get a UBI of commensurate value to cover housing, food, and other things that are utilities that you are required to have in order to support yourself in the current economy. So I would prefer it that we have some level of UBI, which will help people not, go destitute when they lose their job. But at the same time, we have food stamps for those kids and people who are in need and need to eat. These are both things that I would be okay with having together.
Okay. Hey, Amanda, you can just jump in when you're talking, but hello, hi.
Hi. No, so the argument here was kind of about my situation in regards to, staying on financial assistance in order to survive, and it's because of this cliff. So I want to make the point that fraud on food stamps is extremely low, like under 5%.
Yes, 1
and
to 1.9.
Yeah, I think the highest it was at one point was like 3.9 or something. But the entire idea that I don't know the way you worded it, but like pretty much you were saying that it incentivizes people to remain on welfare, and that's just absolutely not true. It makes it impossible to get off. Nobody wants to be on it, and it is humiliating to have to turn jobs down because they pay too much money, to talk to my bosses about taking a pay cut, and to deny pay raises because if I took them at that point in time, I would have been thrown off food stamps and insurance and everything else, because that's just how it is. It's literally a cliff that you make just this amount of money and you're completely dropped off. So there needs to be tiers, a better tiered system to start. But I just think it's funny that anyone would actually make an argument that it incentivized people to stay in poverty, because no.
That argument is so insulting to people who are in poverty.
I think that what you just said indicates
with a better solution.
Too many people at the same time. Too many people. Let's give a slow back to Omni.
Yeah, so I think that what you just said vindicates the point that Spartacus was making, which is that food stamps, by making it so that at a certain income threshold, it cuts off benefits. It makes it so that people don't have an incentive to take action by themselves to the extent that that action would raise the income above that threshold. Now, I would support if welfare were less invasive and were something like a negative income tax or a UBI. I think such that there's just not a firm cutoff. You don't get these weird incentives, because I do think poverty is a problem, and welfare can lift people out of poverty. But just these contrived schemes have been shown time and time again to not be effective at lifting people out of food.
Okay, so really all we're talking about to fix this is to make it a tiered system. Saying we should throw the baby out. You're saying that. Hold on.
Okay, hold on. We'll go to Captain A. Jones, Sinez, Cut, and then Sprout.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Omni. You're saying throw the baby out with the bathwater because we can't just change one tiny thing. Like, to make it a tiered system would be one change that we could make to make it so much easier. And I know people exactly in Amanda's position and saying the exact same thing. And it's I mean, I'm not going to say it's a simple fix, but it seems like making it a tiered system is a pretty simple fix for this problem. Let's not throw out the entire system.
Yeah,
just because we can't.
Categorical would be a far more simplistic fix, especially like for this particular issue, because when we talk about who it's affecting, it's affecting a particular group of people who fall within that bracket of people like who are within that particular pay.
Well, no, I mean, I was explaining why I'm against current elements.
Hey, stop. Hold on. He can respond. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was explaining why I'm against current elements of the stamp system and why I think we could replace it with a better system. The question of whether that would be just a modification of the existing scheme or a replacement of it with a new scheme is sort of arbitrary and semantic. But I mean, I think that the system that I've laid out would generate better outcomes than the current system of food stamps.
So the point I was going to make is, if you read the question, it said the complete decommodification of all foods, right? So what that means is all foods would need to be available at the same time, which means, well, as you know, foods have expiration date, which would cap off all the expired food at the same time. If all milk is available at the same time, all milk expires at the same time, unless you.
Wait, what?
Is your food expires and stuff? What if you
all the foods going to expire all at once, right? If you decommodify all foods, you would need more food to be available at that time. And the more foods that are
Cut sleeve. We have a production model in our country right now where we produce enough milk that it's good for like a couple weeks behind. You got to go back to the shelf, you grab that last milk. That one goes a couple days longer because we constantly produce. This would occur as well in a new system.
Is constantly going through. Like when you look, like if you've ever worked at a fucking grocery store, you'll know that if the people in the back are doing their jobs right, the milk is constantly getting cycled over to where there's always at least a week before the expiration. Like within my particular store, well, not a week, 5 days generally. It was the policy I was under. Where if milk was within 5 days of expiration, that bitch gets pulled. But like for that entire extent, it was like over 2 months. So it's like you're acting like, oh, if they pass this legislation, all of a sudden all fucking milk is gonna be fucking expired.
No, I'm saying
it's done. It's done.
That is not the way it's gonna be.
The distribution doesn't happen to be right now where people are definitely coming to supermarkets, but supermarkets aren't packed people to people. If the food all becomes decommodified, which means if you actually look at the definition of decommodified, it says reject the commodity, which makes it essentially free. If all milk is free at the same time, all milk gets expired at the same time because you have.
Wait,
no.
I got this.
I was definitely next.
Yeah, what's next? No, cut sleeve, cut over Sinez here. I'm pronouncing the name wrong again. But anyway, hopefully you can handle this.
Yeah, I don't know what to say to this. It's like I don't know, like the logic comes with all milk is like available suddenly, and now it's like all spoiling at the same time. The timestamp does not change because they fucking changed legislation, dude. Like, also, are you implying that like because there's more people consuming food that it's gonna go bad like faster, they're gonna run out of it faster? Because that just means that you're acknowledging that people aren't getting food they need.
What he's saying is that when all food becomes free, they're just going to rush into the supermarket.
Right, sorry.
I get to respond, right? Okay. So here's what's going to happen, right? It's called supply and demand, right? As the demand grows exponentially because everything's decommodified, the definition of decommodified is to reject commodity, which makes it essentially free. That demand gets higher, right? The supply needs to be higher with it, which means the expiration date for more milk, the more milk gets put out, will be, would arrive quicker, right?
So cut sleeve. We're not going to
let him finish his point.
Yeah, the arrival of milk is coming steady, right? It's coming steady. You produce this amount of milk, and then after time goes, you produce the same amount of milk each and every week, right? What happens when that supply spikes? What happens when that demand spikes, right? You would have to kind of circuit the flow of the natural demand of milk which means that like because your natural flow circuit messes up real quick. What I'm trying to say is, when you have such high demand, you need such high supply, and where is that supply coming from?
So Cutsleeve, the thing is, okay, the two things
results in shortages.
Cutsleeve, the two,
food, like one of the few things.
Oh my gosh. Can someone just actually do the definition because it's completely wrong? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Two things are absolutely missing here, Cutsleeve. We're not going to milk all the cows dry tomorrow, and then everybody gets their milk the very next day. Okay, we're all going to have a different demand curve as we independently go and get our milk for the week. We aren't suddenly going to be drinking 19 gallons of milk because it's free. We will purchase the amount of milk that we normally would purchase. It just won't cost us any money, like getting free healthcare. We will not suddenly go to the doctor 85,000 times because we like poked our nail or something.
Wait, but what?
Not how this works.
We get more
you are incorrect in assuming that there will be some demand spike and supply spike just because this is a commodity run by a government.
Wait,
like saying that healthcare would do the same.
Okay, so with this being said, wait, hold up. Let me grill this guy real quick.
Oh boy.
If something's free, does the demand go up?
If something is free, the demand will go up to a certain level, but it will not rise exponentially. No, Cutsleeve, you asked me a question. Let me finish. It will not rise exponentially. Here. It will not rise exponentially. They have universal health care in other countries. They don't see people going like, they don't see people. It matters, Cutsleeve. They have no demand curve. They have no demand curve. They don't have some excess demand curve for healthcare there. They don't have people lining up outside their stores or outside their houses every single day because they're going to get
Okay, we don't have to like spend the entire rest of the time working on this point because oh boy. So we're gonna go to Sprouticus, Kat, and then Amanda, and back to Omni. Okay.
So I'm gonna stay off that. I'm gonna stay off that point. So I'm gonna go back to the point I was talking about when I was talking about food stamps. Actually, fraud grew. The last numbers we have is for SNAP's fraud was in 2016, $592.7 million in 2016. It's up a staggering 61% from 2012 when the fraud was $367.1 million. So we're talking about over $500 million in fraud in a year. Right, so that's quite ridiculous to bring that up. The total number of fraud investigations totaled 963,965, up more than 30% from 2012. So the fraud cases continue to stack up on top of each other. And that was just the fraud investigations in 2016.
Okay, so
with that being said, someone else also tried to counter me by saying that the welfare does not keep the poor. According to finance, so by the way, the source I got for the last one was Forbes.com. According to finance.yahoo.com, more than 5 decades. So when President Lyndon Johnson launched his war on poverty in the 1960s, he pledged to eliminate poverty in America. More than 5 decades, several welfare programs, and $25 trillion later, the welfare system has utterly failed the poor. The poverty rate remains mostly unchanged, and tens of million Americans are dependent on government assistance. And what dependent means is
dude, that's a cool piece, but I got reading the Forbes article you have in front of you, and it's like literally like 0.9% of the total. Food stamps.
Also, here's a good way to contextualize.
One second. $1 is not worth it.
Yes, here's a way to contextualize that, okay? Take a quick guess at the amount of money that is spent by the NYC Police Department based on their abuses or, injustices that they have to pay out for lawsuits. What would be your guess?
My guess, it's NYC, so I'm going to guess close to $800 million a year.
Yeah, it's about $1 billion a year. That is one city's police department. That is one city.
To make up the country, bro. Yeah.
Okay, but that's still $500 million. So you're saying $500 million of fraud isn't worth taking a look at it? And then not only to bring that up, but
here's the answer.
Wait, not just that. We're also talking about how welfare keeps the poor.
So I'll get to that as well. To answer your question, hey, is $500 million worth it, right? I will take that $500 million of technically lost government revenues if it means that we don't have kids starving when they go to school. That sounds cool to me. I'd ask Omni, generally speaking, if he's against free food for kids whenever they go to school, like the free lunches. To answer your question, does it keep people poor? It can. We've talked about the perverse incentive problem, about how you could end up taking pay cuts or not taking any raise because you don't want to make money and lose your benefits. My solution to these things would make it so that those benefits aren't tied to how much money you make that we decommodify food.
So I'm not saying.
Also, I'm sorry. Hold on. You said something really. You said something.
I get a chance to respond.
Hold on.
You can respond after I get done responding to cancel the communists. So I get a chance to respond. So with that being said, I'm not saying getting rid of food stamps. What I'm saying is maybe add a little bit extra to it, right? Maybe give the people with food stamps an ID that they have to show that has a picture on it that they have to show in order to use their food stamps. That would make more sense if then you wouldn't be able to sell your food stamps to some random guy because they'd be useless because your ID does not show that you are who the food stamps card says it's supposed to be spending the money, right? So that would be a really quick way to eliminate or at least reduce fraud on the food stamps of the government. And and welfare does keep the poor because after you make a certain amount of money,
you made the same statement over and over again. Come on now. Okay, when you say
it makes sense.
It's my turn to speak.
Okay, respond, Captain. I'm gonna go to Kat and then Amanda. They've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, when you say it's something increased by 61%, it could have been at 0.5% of the total, and saying it increased to 61% means it's now 1.1% of the total. So it's super deceiving to say that something went up 61% without saying what the total of the overall is. So that's just super deceiving. You're super deceptive. That's not how math works. Like get GTFO with
that.
Okay.
It is how math works because it went up by 61%. It went up by 61% of the original total.
Hold back. All right, we gotta make room for other people as well. All right, so Kat, please.
Okay, so yeah, way earlier I was trying to continue speaking and I got cut off, and then it just became like a game of soggy biscuit ever since. So okay, I'll go back to what I'm saying. Yes, food should be commodified because when it comes to these types of things, you can have a baseline amount of quality of life the same way when it comes to land. When we talk about the decommodification of land, you have like a apartment of like XYZ size, and then from there, if you happen to have income, you can go ahead and get like the luxury version, such as a mansion. So when we are talking about like decommodifying food, it doesn't mean that every single thing that's at the store is something that everyone can have access to. Like not everybody should be able to buy like all of the caviar supplies at every grocery store. It means that you're able to have enough to live off of. And then from there, if you have money, you can go ahead and get like additional things. Like should Chips Ahoy 85 bags of it per month be something everybody should be allowed to have? No, only I should be allowed to have it because I need it, clearly. Also, like, if I want to go ahead and have my T-bone steak, that 1% meal that none of us have ever had in our entire life. Well, when you have additional income, you can go ahead and basically sleep on a bed of steaks. It's not something that everybody needs to have access to. Just like when you have UBI, it doesn't mean that everybody's a millionaire. Like, it's not that crazy of a concept.
What kind of I'm just curious of where you're getting this, because the question said to completely decommodify food. It didn't say to completely decommodify food except for caviar. It didn't say completely decommodify food except for steak. It said completely decommodify food. Now, if you want to talk about completely decommodifying a section of food, then maybe we can have a different discussion. But right now we're having a discussion about completely decommodifying food. Unless caviar is not food, right?
Okay, so when we go ahead and say, should we completely decommodify land? Nobody's saying that everybody should be able to have access to every type of land in the entire world.
The question, Kapanana.
Luckily for you, I woke up 5 minutes ago, so I don't have the question in front of me. So, dab on the haters, suck my ass.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Okay. Well, wait. Here's a really simple question, and Omni,
I want Omni's question more because you talk a lot, and I'm tired of hearing you. What's up, Omni?
Okay. So how do we determine what goods should be decommodified in your view?
So there's the thing where you can go ahead and say like what's luxury and what's not. So let's say if
how do we decide? How do we decide if something's luxury and who decides it?
You can go ahead and check about things like what's the unit price per weight. You can also go ahead and say like you have access to like if I'm at Walmart, I have access to selection brand, but I can't necessarily go and get like the higher quality ones. So that's something that you can go ahead and be able to have if you have the money to go ahead and afford that upscaling. So when we talk about
so you're giving an example, but I'm asking.
They already do this with government assistance programs. They already do this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what-
quick
use our
check,
food
quick
stamps.
check,
No,
quick
I
check,
mean,
real quick.
they don't already
Food stamps aren't valid.
Well, Omni,
Hold on,
Food
sorry,
stamps
sorry,
aren't
sorry.
valid
No,
for
they-
certain
Whoa,
states.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. We're gonna give Omni a chance to finish his point. Then we're gonna go to Amanda. Wait patiently. Go ahead.
Right, so they don't currently decommodify certain foods. There is this different designation, but the problem is these designations are fairly arbitrary, and that there's not a super good way to determine, wait, so I mean, a food that in one area may be more of a luxury, maybe in another area less of a luxury, and maybe that a food by itself is not a luxury, but combined with other things is a luxury. And just having a system where we just provide unlimited access to certain foods that we decide on a case-by-case basis would result in large amounts of lobbying for people who either want their foods to be commodified or to be decommodified, and would reduce producer incentives to produce these foods if they're not getting adequate profit. If they are getting adequate profit, and if the government just pays for them, whatever the price is, well, then they would have an incentive to raise the price. A better solution would be to give people money or give people vouchers that they can spend on food, similar to the food stamps program, but with the changes that were advocated, rather than decommodifying the production of food, and that results in shortages and overall much worse outcomes.
Okay, let's go.
You know what's really cool about panels is the fact that like they're not actually a place for praxis. So I don't actually have to sit here and like on the spot put together like an entire plan about how am I exactly going to go ahead and implement it. Because as last time I checked, I was not elected to Senate. I have to go ahead and check my email again, but I'm pretty sure I'm not a senator. And then also I still have like eye crust inside of my eyes. So I like don't entirely need to go ahead and work out the nuance of the system. I can go ahead and say that I want something to be decommodified
I mean,
without like.
Oh boy. Amanda.
Just real fast.
Oh no, Amanda, go.
Yeah, no. So the end of that, you actually made a very good point, which I think we would all agree. You know, UBI in some form would be better than like food stamp programs and stuff. But TAMP, which is a federal funding for food, has already established guidelines on what is necessity in regards to food. So you get these vouchers and waivers and stuff. So that's where I was pushing back, because they've already identified what type of food is out of necessity. But I do want to just actually tell everyone what decommodification is, because it doesn't seem like the definition is really getting out here, which is really just describes a degree to which individuals or families can uphold a socially acceptable standard of living independent of market participation. So that's what that means. I am all for decommodification of food. Farmers already aren't making profits. They're constantly going in the hole, and we are providing subsidies in order to keep them on their feet. So in a sense, I mean, the government's already kind of paying this in a way, and it really just takes out the shareholders' profits, which I think is a big problem and why we have such a large income wealth gap. So yeah.
Okay.
So I think to follow up on that, to give like Omni a point here, if you want to know a line, if you have to have some line of what is a decommodified food, take the things that are on WIC checks. Women, infant, and children, we give them checks that say, hey, you can get 2 gallons of milk, and you can get this type of off-brand cereal, and you can get this type of food. You can't go ahead and get shrimp that's been heated up. You can't go ahead and buy lobster, but you can buy these specific lists of items because we understand that you need that in order to make sure your kid doesn't starve. These are the things that we would argue.
Right.
You seem generally okay with the idea that we want to give people things, right?
Wait. A few specific questions about that. Okay, so if we have a good, so is the government the one who provides the good, or does the government enable private people to provide the good?
So what you could generally do depends on how you want to run your system, but you could do exactly how healthcare is treated in other countries, is why I brought it up as an example. We could have our government, as Amanda alluded to, just subsidize farmers anyways, because we needed a domestic production base of food. And then after they give that money to the farmers, they produce it like a private good and give it to a market that way. Or, yes, we could have a very more specific... We could have a more specific option where the government actually takes over farms and runs the system as their own. I would prefer a system where we have private industry and we can still choose as end user consumers between things that we prefer. But that's my choice, not you. Not something that we're going to be.
We've gone pretty far. We've gone pretty far off topic.
Can I respond to the things that were said?
I've gone pretty far off topic.
Let him quick respond. Then we'll go to Cut Sleeve and then Sproticus. Right?
Okay. Right. Okay. So, in terms of what was said, so in terms of the farm subsidies point, farm subsidies are obviously a terrible. 500 economists, there was a poll taken of them, like I think it was either 91 or 94% of them agree that we should get rid of farm subsidies. Farm subsidies are definitely a bad idea. And so if we condition the farm subsidies, so we say you only get these subsidies if you make the foods free, well, then that way to encourage an overconsumption of those foods relative to other things and an underconsumption of other things. If we make it so that people, can get, so that the government pays just whatever the cost is of food, well, then companies would have an incentive to raise prices. There's no efficient way of doing it in the ways that's being described. And just a much better option is you give people money and then you allow the private market to figure out the best way of meeting people's needs for the lowest price. And we'll have an incentive.
Omni. You know that we have farm subsidies so that we have a domestic production base of food, correct?
I do know that that's the goal. I also know that it's yeah, I understand that that's the goal. I also understand that that's not a very good way of achieving the goal, and that the majority of farms that get subsidies from us are large farms, and the majority of farms in the US generally are large farms, and there's almost no disagreement among top economists about whether or not farms are
it almost sounds like with the private market that they tend to consolidate power and options so that they become larger factory farms, because that's what a private market wants to do. It wants to sell you all the things that it can at once because that's economically driving them.
Well, no, so it would depend on what the specific commodity is. A major reason as to why the factory farms are prevalent is because they get disproportionate money from the government as a result of lobbying from factory farms.
So let's hold on. Sorry, we got to move on. We got to move on. So say the one thing. You have one thing to say, then go. And we got to how many? One.
Okay.
Quick.
I would support regulating factory farms because I think they're bad for humans, animals, and the environment. But
okay, Cut Sleeve and then Spartacus.
Yeah, just to back Omni's point up, but in a much less intelligent, spoken way. Cancel the communists. If I have if I produce, the best steak, and I spend years making the craft, and the steak's not free, and every food is free, what incentive do I have to make the steak as good as it was?
Okay, so your question here is like, hey, we're gonna only get like C grade beef. We're not gonna get A plus S tier beef, right? That's your question. Just to make it a little more succinct.
No. Say I make S tier steak, right? Mm-hmm. And the government is going to give me money or subsidy or like.
Okay, I got you. Cut Sleeve. Real quick. I got you. I'm sorry to keep bringing. Yeah, I got you. Cut Sleeve. I got you. I'm sorry to keep bringing it back to healthcare, but why do you think it is that in Norway and Sweden they have better health outcomes than we do?
I don't know anything. I don't know much about Sweden. I know much more about America. You can specifically reference to California, which has I think they have a single payer or multi-payer system, but
no, they do not.
In those, healthcare isn't like a commodity. You don't go to the doctor to you don't have fun going to the doctor. Going to the doctor isn't a exploit in and of itself.
Hey, yeah, whenever I eat my daily bread, I don't derive value and pleasure from that. I derive sustenance. Okay, it's nice when I go out to a party and have a big steak or whatever. You have a discussion on what's a luxury good and what's not. Is chocolate right? But if I need to eat my food for a day, it's not a fucking I don't get happy from that.
What, you're not answering my question. You dodged. Okay. If I make an S tier steak, and now everything's free, so I have no profit incentive to make that S tier steak S tier. Why would I make it S tier?
Hey, Cancel. Let me take this. So who in the world is talking about subsidizing S tier steaks? Is anybody talking?
Question.
You take the question. So hold on. When you take the question ultra literally, so that you can try to make a dunk for your libertarian ideals. It doesn't really work because what we're doing is we're suggesting alternatives, right? To instead of decommodifying food, because I also think that that's a bad idea. I'm not against the idea. We shouldn't be decommodifying food. We should be helping poor people with getting food so that nobody starves, so that people have enough food in their belly so that they can go out and find a job and do the things that they need to do to live their life You know.
Short question.
So when you make this incredible straw man, oh my God, you craft it poorly.
I don't think the stakes.
So Sprout.
Okay. Wait. Can I get a response?
Make it quick. So we got.
All right. Very quick. Who in here defends the question as it is?
Oh, I mean, sure. I'll bite the bullet on the concept of decommodifying food, whatever.
Pathadana, Amanda, and cancel the communists. Only. Okay. That's good.
Oh, I would too.
Okay.
But I'm not in this. Go ahead, Sprout.
Okay, so first things first. I'm against decommodifying food because the way the question is stated to completely decommodify food, right? So I am against completely decommodifying food. Now we can talk about other ways to do it if you guys want to do that. Sure, that's why I brought up food stamps. How about we fix the fraud of the food stamps by doing exactly what I said? Have it stated to a person, have the person show their ID to prove that's who they are in order to buy what they need to buy. I don't know why this is mind blowing to Amanda, but evidently she's never thought of this before. And I don't like Katarana. Did you just wake up? I'm really confused. I don't know if you said that before this panel or not. But with that being said, we can find other solutions, right? And that's what I brought up. And you guys are just like, oh well, what food do we need to decommodify? That wasn't the question. So if we're gonna talk, it depends. Are we gonna talk about the question, or are we gonna talk about whatever someone wants to bring up?
So here we go.
Amanda and then Smug.
There you go.
Yeah, no, so I'm mind blown at the fact that you're sitting here on this idea to show an ID for food when the majority of people well, I wouldn't say the majority, I have no idea what the statistics are, but I do know that lower income people don't have access to IDs typically, and they're living food deserts. What?
It says a free ID.
It's called free ID.
Okay, cool. That doesn't matter because people can't get it.
Does
like
matter.
if you
live, go to DMV. Go
if you have time to go to DMV because you're working all fucking day, you're not gonna be able to do it.
Holy shit! Let her finish, please, Amanda.
No, so like rural Iowa, you can't get to the DMV. There's not one in some counties here for freaking hours. People don't have cars. It's not that and it's not that simple. So you're literally just throwing out an ID for what purpose? I have no freaking idea. It's completely pointless. And then you mentioned something, or maybe it was someone else, I don't know, but talking about how food stamps hasn't helped because it hasn't pushed anyone out of poverty. But food stamps aren't income. Like, of course they're not going to help with the pushing people out of poverty because it does not count as income.
Y'all must have obviously ignored that I said welfare when I said that, but that's all right.
Well, sorry.
You must have obviously ignored that I said welfare when I said that, but that's all right because it seems to be
how is that related to a point about how it's hard to get ID?
Wait. It seems to be that you like to ignore a lot of what I say because when I brought up IDs, really I also suggested that you would have that as an identity that you are the person that food stamps is supposed to be for. That way, it decreases fraud. That way, they can't just go sell their food stamps card. That way, someone else can then use those food stamps card to get food. So therefore, yes, I am saying have an ID.
Amanda, and then Smug. He's been waiting.
Yeah, no. So there's actually people that have to go shopping for other people and use people's food stamps cards to get them food. I mean, older people, people that got sick with COVID and whatnot. So I just think it's silly. Like that whole thing is, for lack of a better word, dumb. I wasn't not listening. I actually came onto the panel right as you were finishing up your point. So sorry, that's all I caught. But yeah, sorry. I also just wanted to say, because we might be cutting out on time, I have no idea here, but he said first things first. So I need to say first things first. I'm the realist.
Okay. Smug, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
So where you are.
We'll
go Smug, Omni, and then cut
right. Yeah. So I mean, nice virtue signal there, Sprout, about like, oh, the lost finances of welfare. Dude, bro, we're spending $424.4 billion in commodity and crop insurance subsidies to major farms, and yet like you're getting your fucking panties in a bunch over a few million. And again,
half a billion.
Don't cut me off.
Half a billion.
I know you're getting fucking upset. I know you're getting
half a billion.
But chill your roll there.
Half a billion.
Bit, and then when
hey, let him finish. Let him talk, please. He's been waiting.
When you get to your welfare, your big welfare gotcha. Oh, what did we find out? Yeah, even though it's 62, guess what? despite the 62% jump in fraud, it's still only 1 to 1.5%. And even in regards to your fraud claim, like even if we do say, oh my God, they're selling food stamps to who? Well, who the fuck do you think they're selling it to? You think some rich asshole is going around just buying everyone's food stamps? Or do you think it's poor people who are selling it to other poor people, potentially to make a little bit more money because the situations that they're in are that fucked due to these situations? Like, what fucking reality are you in? Where you think people are just selling shit arbitrarily?
It also seems so un-American to suggest that we should have an ID to purchase food. That just seems like a crazy un-American stance from somebody with an American flag in their background.
You need an ID for welfare. You need an ID to get welfare anyways.
They have IDs already.
So then use them when you buy something. Just like when you put up a card, when you use a credit card, right? If you don't have the back sign, guess what the cashier will ask you? They'll say, hey, can I see your ID? Because the back doesn't have a signature on it, right? So this isn't a completely mind-blowing conversation, right? It already happens in a day-to-day world. Why not apply it to a food stamps card?
Okay, so first of all, I don't know where you're going, where you're having cashiers ask for your ID unless you're buying like tobacco. That's never had that happen. And also, like just as Amanda said, a lot of people don't have access to like IDs. So going ahead and asking people that are already like in a situation of like being impoverished. So if we went ahead and decommodified food, a lot more people would have access to IDs. A lot more people would have access to the system. It's still kind of strange to go ahead and ask people to go ahead and have an ID, because there's times where you might go ahead and say, hey kid, you're sitting there doing nothing. Can you go buy food because I have to go to work later? My 14-year-old child. So could you go grab the food at the grocery store? And like, what if you go ahead and implement the system? Then what? You're just gonna say, okay, no, the person actually needs to go ahead and be active and go to the grocery store. But when you're like somebody that needs the system like direly, some people are working 2-3 jobs. Oh, and what time are they gonna have sometimes to go and grab food? So yeah, no, it's fine that we have a system where people don't need to have IDs, because sometimes you need people to go and get the food for you.
Smug, did you finish?
So then why not have a group of names on a food stamp, right?
Also, like
a group of families.
Smug, have you finished your point? And then we got to go to Omni and
all
cut.
the fucking photos of the whole family on the card. What do you need the fucking family album on your card now if you're gonna have multiple names?
I mean, want to have all the names of people that are authorized to use the food stamps card, right? Stop, Smug. You also said before who are they selling food stamps to, right? Who are people selling food stamps to? They're bartering them for drugs. That's what they're doing.
Holy shit!
Damn. Okay.
On that?
Crazy,
man.
Like your Forbes article
that is the number one fraud of food stamps, is bartering for drugs.
Okay, the number one out of what, like 0.64% of fraud.
Also, yeah. I'm saying let's eliminate this fraud. Let's eliminate this $500 million of American dollars lost. Right? Let's eliminate this by having a food card with a list of authorized users on the back. And if your ID does not match one of those authorized users, then guess what? I guess you can't use that food stamps card. Sorry about your luck.
So Nez, do you have a
drug? You're telling me that I can't go buy someone food and then trade it for drugs?
Do you have a direct response?
I do. Anyway. I think like the whole thing with this, like this is like a false frame of this whole entire conversation. Like, who gives a shit about like what point is fraud? Like, are you expecting 0% fraud at some point? Do you think that it's ever going to be like a 0% murder rate, a 0% anything rate? Like, are you is really like 0.9% too much for you because it's fucking like a couple $1 million in contrast to like, you know, we have way more like larger budgets and other shit. I don't understand at what point like are you like. And also, like we're talking about, this is also going to harm so many more poor people than it would actually help. If you actually listen to Amanda's point.
Technically, that $500
billion. You're saying, are we going to wait for a 0% murder rate? Is absolutely asinine. Anybody on this panel would love a 0% murder rate. Anyone on this panel would love a 0% fraud rate, right? So why don't we work towards that? Why are we actively pushing against working towards that?
Before we run out of time, before I run this topic out, I have a question.
No, sorry, hon. Omni was supposed to be next anyway.
Yeah, okay. I have a few questions for a cancel the communist. So you brought up the example of healthcare in other countries. So in terms of other countries and their healthcare system, what percentage of new medicine comes from the United States?
I don't have the exact number. I know we do a good job producing new medications, but we could do what the UK does: run our actual practitioners helping people as a public industry, and then have private organizations like AstraZeneca that would still produce things like the vaccine for COVID. I have a question for you and the other right wing.
Wait. You don't get a filibuster. Okay, we make 56% of the world's new drugs, and of the new drugs that are substantial improvements over existing schemes, we make 78% of the world's new drugs. It turns out that when you set price caps and do other things that are required for a universal healthcare scheme, you get less pharmaceutical profits and less pharmaceutical innovation, which is why 3 separate studies have found that that would raise long-run healthcare costs if the United States adopted. This was.
Why do you think that America was not the first country to produce a vaccine for COVID-19?
Well, given that a lot of countries were working on it at the same time and other countries did it first, but of new drugs, most of them come from the United States. Giving an example of a drug that did not come first from the United States is not evidence that the United States lags behind other countries in innovation. The United States is by far the most innovative country in the world for decades.
The question I wanted to ask you, and other people on the panel who were against decommodification here, was a simple one. Should we have checked people's income statements when they got online for food, had food lines during COVID? Should we have asked every individual person, hey, do you make too much money to be in this line for free food because you had to go to the soup kitchen because you didn't have a job during COVID? Should we expect that they give us that information?
And that's that's time.
That would be an
great. So thank you all for that. Really appreciate it. To my audience, what we're going to do now is we're going to vote. You are going to vote on which one of these individuals you think did the best job, or was the funniest, or the most interesting, the best spirited, whatever it is, whatever your criteria. Okay, I'm going to put a poll in chat. You're going to vote for which of these individuals you want to keep into the next round. Who you find the best, right? Who you want to stay into the next round. That's what I'm going to be. So that link will be in chat in just a second. That's right. You'll have 5 minutes to do so. Okay, I knew I was forgetting something. You'll have 5 minutes to do so. You won't have 6 minutes to do so. So get your votes in now. Don't wait. We always, literally every week, we have a problem with this. Don't wait. Get your votes in right now, because the bottom vote getters will be up for elimination. Okay, so get your votes in now. Whoever you want to stay, they rely on you. They're relying on you to vote. So I'm putting the link in chat now. Vote. You have 5 minutes left on the clock. Do that now, please. All right. You can talk if you want, Amanda.
Oh, I have a question. Can people pay to still mute other people during this?
No.
No.
Okay. That's people were asking in the chat. Sorry. So
that'd be too easy.
That would be me.
That wouldn't be a game show. That'll be unfair. But you guys talk about anything while we wait for the 5 minutes.
All right.
That's not the topic. I'd say
it's not the topic.
You can talk about anything. It's fine.
Topic shit.
I'm just curious about that 1% stake. I have a lot of questions about that. The stake that's nobody's able to afford.
Only the 1% can afford the stake cut that on. I mean, fuck that up there.
Yes, only 1% of all of the world can afford the stake.
I'm sorry, I'm literally a 12-year-old and I could go ahead and fucking buy like steak every day if I wanted to. I don't know what world that you're living in.
If you're in the United States, you are part of the top 1%, right? And second,
do I look like a 1%er to you?
Do I look like a 1%er?
That's like that's
in the top 1%.
No, I think you just don't understand like how like budgeting works. If I want to go ahead and like just spend most of my money, like literally pay my rent and eat steaks all the time, then I could go ahead and budget in such a way to do that. I don't think have you taken Econ 101, bro?
You might be able to do it with steaks, but you definitely can't have milk, okay? You can do it with the steaks, but you can't have milk. Milk is now illegal and you can't have it anymore because it goes all about the same time.
You're in the global top 1%. I think you have to, your income, if it's $53,000 or so, you're in the global top 1%.
I have a really important question. How do you guys all like your steak?
Fried or fertilized?
Medium rare. Medium
Not
rare.
spoiled.
fine rare.
1%
No,
not
medium rare.
spoiled.
Yeah, I just tried medium rare last time I had a steak. It was amazing.
Let's say medium.
Yeah, I don't, because I think that the way that factory farming is an atrocity, and I think that we shouldn't eat animals. So I don't.
I like my meat charcoal, just fucking burnt to a crisp, so I can know that they died for nothing.
My son decided to be a vegetarian.
Like, we
a year
we
ago.
burn it and we throw it in the trash, all right? Nobody derives enjoyment. It's just for the pain.
Wait, okay. Question for someone, given that we're at break right now. So for people who eat steak, so what about animals?
gosh, not the vegan question.
Vegan
Well, I
argument.
mean,
Oh, God.
Go for it. Go forward,
Look,
Omni.
I'd rather the vegan question than the JQ. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
well, okay. So what about animals makes it okay to like murder them for their taste?
They're delicious.
Because
Oh,
I don't give two fucks about animals. I as a black.
Okay,
I have a better
so-
answer for you, Omni. Okay.
No,
We live in a
I
situation.
want
No, real quick. We live in a situation where only.
I-
Hey, this is important. We live in a situation where, unlike cut sleeves, 1% can eat steak. Joe, we do live in a situation where if you are economically disadvantaged right now, you cannot actually be a vegetarian or vegan effectively. We only can do that in the privileged state of America, where you can go to your local grocery store and buy a bunch of veggies. Okay. When you are poor or you live in the global south right now,
That's dead wrong. The vast majority of people, the majority of the world eats way less meat than we do.
okay, eating less meat versus eating no meat. Is it okay to eat? Is it okay to kill one cow? Why is it only okay to kill one cow but not 100
Okay.
cows?
Memeing on you.
So before you jump back into that, hey everyone, now's the time, right? We have less than a minute left. Jump on in, vote. The link is in chat. These individuals, they rely on you. If you find one of these people entertaining, we'll go vote for them. If not, they're going to lose. They're going to be tossed out, and then no more happy times for you. Okay, so less than a minute left. You can keep yelling at Omni, but I would say that animals are delicious, and that's the only reason I need to eat them.
Okay, if humans were delicious, would it be okay to kill them and eat them?
Are humans the
Humans are
same?
conscious,
Are humans the same as what we consider animals to be? Right? As we commonly. No. Listen, are humans the same as other animals? Like, do we consider them the same? No, I'm not ignoring you. I'm answering them. So, are they the same? Do we consider them the same? Or do we consider ourselves different? Right?
We are obviously different.
Okay, great. Well, then, it's a dumb question.
Well, no,
it's a dumb question. Because those are different. No, because they are different. Because I'm answering your question. Because they are different, right? I said I want to keep animals, not humans. So, animals are delicious.
Well, okay.
So, that is the voting. So we're gonna jump.
There we
into
go,
the,
guys.
Voting.
I am second place.
Oh
There
my
we go,
god,
guys.
dude! Could you not? Could you not? Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Oh boy. All right. Anyway.
I thought I was muted.
He's spoiling it.
Oh man.
I thought I was muted.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So moving on. The crowd has voted, and they they definitely like one of you. So, Kat, apparently sleep does well for you because you are number one. They voted for you by a mile, actually. So let's drag you up here and see.
It's because I promised my audience feet pictures. So I don't know, just get on my level.
Okay, well, there you go.
An unfair advantage.
Agreements going on.
Next, we do apparently have Spartacus. Thank you for that. Really, very much appreciated.
I apologize.
It's okay, buddy.
I apologize.
It's okay, buddy. Don't worry about it. All right, and just for the record, because he's worked so hard for it, right? Cancel is at number 3, right? Long way from where you were previously. All right, yeah. You made a splash. Okay, people see you out there. People appreciate you. Okay, all right. And now let's take a look at the bottom 3. Oh boy. Let's take a look. We have. Oh boy. Do we have it? Really annoying. All right, so we'll start with cut sleeves slash sweat sleeves, or whatever you're calling yourself now. Sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, but you belong here. Not far away from the winner's circle, right? As far as possible, really. So sorry. And then this breaks my heart. We have Captain A. Jones. Oh man. I think you did a good job though. I actually really did.
Yeah, I thought you did amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't promise feet pics. I can't.
You gotta do it.
Next time, man. Next time.
But okay. Oh my God, someone is typing very loudly into it's Omni, isn't it? Oh my God. Oh my God, can you stop? Whoever it is.
I'll ruin your life.
Thank you.
I'll fucking kill you.
Oh my God, thank you. Great.
Wait, sorry. I thought I'd muted myself and I had not.
No problem. All right. And then tie for third, which is really annoying. God damn it. Is Smug and Snez, right? And all right, so we gotta figure out an easy way to break these ties. All right, so what we're gonna do, we'll try this. We'll try a quick Twitch poll, and see which one of you will go on. So hold on.
Audience choice. Oh, okay.
Or, yep. Third. God, it really annoys me when this happens, but we tried the rock, paper, scissors thing, but it didn't work. This was a mess.
Because internet, obviously, does.
Okay. And
Clearly not saying this because I'm in third place, but you should just make third place break the ties.
All right, so off you go. We have a minute on the clock to vote for either of these two, right? Whoever gets the most votes will not be up for elimination. So a minute left. Vote right now.
Vote for third. Wait, does that mean third one to get kicked or third one to be stayed?
Oh my God, did you not hear what I said? Vote for.
No. He said to stay.
Okay, vote to stay. Okay.
Yeah.
He voted the other person probably.
Oh God damn it. Oh.
Yeah, vote for the person you want to stay. Stay. Just like the other ones. Vote for the one you want to stay.
Hey, Crimes Chat. Make it a tie.
No, fuck you. Fuck you.
Double overtime.
Oh man.
Make it double overtime.
Yeah. Hopefully this. Well,
It's high right now. Oh.
Oh my God.
Chat knows.
Don't, you fuckers. I'm just gonna. If it's like that, I'm just gonna eeny meeny miny mo. I don't care. I'm just gonna move on. Okay, Smug, you get to stay. All right. So Snez, you are the third person to be up for the chopping block. And, all right. Which great. All right. So here's what's gonna happen. Each of you, Snez, Captain A. Jones, and Sweat Sleeves, will have an opportunity, 30 seconds, to beg Katarina and Sprouticus for the opportunity to stay for those two, okay? So I'll give you 30 seconds, each of you. Will give them a reason why they should not eliminate you. All right, so Snez.
Kat, as a fellow physics person, you know we are a rare breed in the politics realm. I think that appeals to that will be a pretty effective one right now. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I'm just kind of, I think, yeah, that's kind of it actually. That's kind of my main thing. And then Sprouticus, I like your background. See, these are the way to. This is the way to do it. I think. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Let's go to Captain A. Jones.
Katarina, I really appreciate that you're always on these panels. I always like your takes, and I always think that you're really consistent. So please don't vote me off because I really like when you're on these. Sprouticus, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean any of the things that I said earlier, and it's nothing personal. It's just I really like talking with you. That's really what this is born from. And cancel the communists. I don't think we have anything against each other. I like you.
No, don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. He's not up for voting.
Well, then Sprouticus, all that just applies to you, Katarina, as well as to you. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Cut sleeve. Great.
So for Katarina,
didn't want it that bad.
Very simple. First of all, I'm black. We have that in common, brotherhood. 2, if you keep me in, it's less likely of a chance that you guys will split the votes. If you have more right-leaning people in, that's more likely that your votes are going to you. 3, I tuned into your stream. The last stream I saw of you, you were playing DDR. For Sprouticus, I am 1, your conservative main brother. 2, we've been in multiple panels together, and 3, we're going to be in multiple panels on Monday, right?
Okay, all right. So what will happen now is Kat and Sprout will DM me a name, right, of which one of these individuals is getting tossed. All right, so send me one name in a DM as to which one of these people you are tossing out the door. Which one of them you found worthless? Which one of them doesn't deserve a future here on this panel? Tell me which one you want to crush their dreams, kill their puppies. Tell me, please, quick.
I gotta find you in my PMs. There, I'll start a conversation. Never mind. I'm good.
I just have to say, Captain, as far as I'm aware, you don't even follow my channel. So if you got kicked off, I think you did it to yourself.
Damn. I knew I should have.
That's a big yikes right there.
Okay, all right. I suppose I'm not going to use this now. I'll just say that right this second. But I forgot to say there was an extra role. We just recently added this role. I'm not going to use it right now. But I do get 1 free save of an individual. So if there's an individual who I think deserves to stick around, then I'll save them, and then the other person will get eliminated. Right. So that'll be a thing. But I'm not going to use it right now. So the people you sent will be the ones tossed. And
so what Prime just said is I'm dead later on this panel.
Oh boy,
that's cool.
No,
actually, Prime. Can I do a sacrifice because I actually got a balance? One of the two.
Sure, go ahead. All right. Moving on. We will. Captain A. Jones. Your time is up. You got. I really enjoyed having you, though. I thought you were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Shout out, yeah. So you could follow me. I have everything linked at Captain A. Jones. It's really simple. Twitter, Twitch. I stream. I smoke weed. Come say hi while I get high. And you can also get high too if that's a thing and it's legal. Only if it's legal though.
Thanks so much, buddy. Have a good one.
Take
care. Okay. All right. So moving on.
Just so I assert dominance, I just want chat to know that I did kick off cut sleeves. If there's going to be any id pull here, it's going to be from me and only me. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, there we go. I was going to leave that alone, but all right.
No, I need them to know.
Being said, it's just common sense that I kicked off Captain. So, I mean, it's a 50-50 shot. And she just took away that 50. So,
okay. Well, thank you for that. All right. So we're moving on. Thank you very much, everyone, for voting, for being a part of this. And if you've been enjoying this content, hit the follow button right now. Hit that follow button notification. Hit the notification bell to make sure we know I'm going live, because we do this 6 days a week. We give you a lot of content. Don't miss out. All right. So hit that follow button right this second if you're just joining us. All right. Moving on. Next topic, which I've been having a lot of trouble figuring out which one I want to go to next. It really just depends on the group. All right. Why don't we do the monarchy one? All right. Would did I write this? I wrote this very badly. Would America? I meant to say would the United States, but would America benefit from a constitutional monarchy? All right. 35 minutes left on the clock. Jump on in.
So I want to start off with
this.
Fuck the crown unless it's Trump. Then I will accept Trump as king with open arms. So I just wanted to start off with that.
Yeah, wait,
that one
okay. So it should not be a monarchy, right? Monarchies are generally less stable. For example, in Rome, of the 90s, there were only 38 died of natural causes. The other 52 died of some other cause. Most popular monarchs have been deposed. So, for example, the Bourbons, the Romans, and some crusade that I read about that has a name that I can't pronounce. Albigensian killed about 1 million people. The harrying of the North killed about 100,000 people. And Qin Shi Huang killed about 1 million people. These were all monarchies. They're generally less stable. Democracies very rarely go to war.
Okay, so real quick clarifying question, Prime. When you said constitutional monarchy, did you mean more like Canada and the UK's present system, or did you mean like actually let's bring back the king?
Like,
No,
yeah,
like
no,
monarchies are necessarily. It affects
What's that they used to be were not constitutional monarchies.
state system. A constitutional monarchy, in effect, would effectively be like a parliamentary system.
Right, that's what I was asking. I think a better question as far as our debate here goes.
Rubber stamp power. So it's basically you do get a president, but they're the president for fucking life, and it passes down to that family. So
Yeah,
No.
No,
So, okay, I think
there's-
I think
how that
it's
works.
currently a constitutional monarchy, and I do live in Kanukistan, and I do get to vote for who gets to be the leader. Like, it doesn't just get passed down. I think you're thinking about regular monarchies, which is not what a constitutional monarchy
Right.
is. And also, going ahead and reading off a list of how many people were killed by dictator or by like monarchs. Like, give me a second. Let me go read how many people have been killed by presidents. That's such like a non sequitur. Like, oh,
Okay.
it kills people sometimes. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Well,
what
no, I mean,
system it is.
monarchies are generally way less stable. The leader is much more likely to be deposed in violent ways. They're much more likely to go to war. They have less prosperity, less growth, more people in poverty. The historical track record is extremely clear that you're much worse off living in a monarchy.
The oppression I feel as a Canadian and how my family was killed last week by the monarch. Oh fuck. You know what? I'm getting PTSD. I was like,
Queen Elizabeth came for you, Katarina.
It's a constitutional monarchy. This isn't a thing. Like, since when have you seen, like, in breaking news today, Canada up in arms because having a monarchy is crazy? Like, no, like, that's not a, like, you're thinking about old systems, but, like, you know what? When you go back 100 years, when you start, like, going and getting your data from 100 years, like, you'll find a bunch of fuck up things. It could literally be any system. It could be a monarchy. It could be, like, a democracy. It doesn't matter. No matter what, it's going to be fucked up.
Well, no, I mean, the fucked up things are comparatively way greater under monarchy, and there's just monarchies are generally worse.
So yeah,
No,
here's the answer, Omni. Monarchies are bad. Here's the real question. I think what we should debate: would a parliamentary democracy be better for America than our current representative republic?
We've already done that plenty of times. No. So back to the question. So I was talking about like a UK system, and it doesn't. And to have a constitutional monarchy, you don't have to have a parliamentary system, right? Like, you're simply separating the powers, right, of the head of state, right, from like the executive, right? You could just have two separate, right? So we could still have a presidency as it stands, right, but instead have a king above that. So
okay. So to answer that question specifically, real quick, to answer that question specifically, we'd see basically no change in America then. If all we're doing is necessarily divorcing our head executor, our version of a prime minister, from being like, the head of state, that wouldn't do anything for us. I don't think it would change like literally anything. We just have a new person that we call king or something.
Like looking at here, the only example is from British colonial, from the UK system, and like, what do we know about the royal family? Like, one. Like, I'd love that citation to cite that, like, the royal family and their monarchy can just be dissolved through a fucking vote. The monarchy can just be fucking swapped out. That it isn't through a inheritance of that monarchical system. That, like, the crown will not pass from within that family. That somehow, like, the people can just vote for this new fucking family out of nowhere, and they get the crown. Like, I'd love a citation on that. But, to cancel the Carmen's point, it doesn't change anything, because then, under the same system, like, if you're unless you're also purporting the parliamentary system, then you're not fucking doing anything. You just got a figurehead. Like, you might
so there is a reason why. We'll see if there is a reason why. But we'll see if Amanda has the knows what I'm going for.
Yeah. So pretty much the House of Representatives and Senate would continually pass legislation like they do now, and then take it to Biden. But before Biden could sign it, like, if we had a monarchy right now, before Biden could sign it, he would have to consult with the monarchy or the monarch, sorry. And so pretty much judicial consultation is required. I think there are a little bit of benefits to this, especially. So I'm looking at more the UK, the way the UK is set up. But there's essentially no way to get rid of them. And I'm just against any lifetime appointments, whether it's passed down through heritage or anything. So
so real quick, I think here, I got you.
Sprout.
Oh, wait, sorry. And one other point I did want to make is that the monarch, can like if something unconstitutional is happening, can step in and intervene. So there are some benefits, but I don't think they outweigh at all.
Okay.
Why?
So with that being said, I kind of want to read this so that we all get a good gist of what's going on. A constitutional monarchy is a system government in which a monarch shares power with a constitutionally organized government. The monarch may be the de facto head of state or a purely ceremonial leader. The Constitution allocates the rest of the government's power to the legislature and judiciary. Britain became a constitutional monarchy under the Whigs. Other constitutional monarchies include Belgium, Cambodia, Jordan, the Netherlands, Norway, Spain, Sweden, and Thailand. With that being said, I am a constitutionalist conservative. We decided to say, fuck the Brits in 1776, okay? And I do not want to go back to what we had with the Brits. I feel like constitutional monarchies are always set up for failures. I feel like democracy, if we keep the power with the people, then that is where we're going to succeed. America is the best experiment ever done to man, and it's still running. Okay, this is the best experiment ever done to the world, and we are still up and running. We're still a global superpower. So no, my continuous stance is going to be fuck the Brits. No.
So real quick, Smug, tell me if I'm wrong here, because I think I can portray both of our points. What Smug and I were kind of trying to get at is that if we don't change our system to be parliamentarian, then we would still elect our head of government. Our version of a prime minister would still be our president who we vote for. If we had a parliamentary system, then yes, our current Speaker of the House becomes our new PM effectively. That's how it works in the UK or Canada. But if we don't have a parliamentary system, then we'd still in theory elect our head of government. We still elect the president. So basically nothing would change.
No, you would have an executive. So you would still have an executive.
What's our big pout about the government? What's one of the biggest pouts about the government that we have within our system is the fucking silver spoon-fed political families that are perpetuated in these systems. But under this monarchical society, okay, now you're literally just giving the person who you can't remove now. So you got the Kennedy situation, but now you can't get them out. And yet now they have this power, and obviously they are going to have that self-interest to maintain their own power or to work within their own interest. And so now you're actively going against your own desires here through the institution of a constitutional monarchy.
So since no one's arguing for it, I'll do it myself. The point is to separate the head of state, right, from the executive, right? It doesn't matter if the executive is a prime minister or a president, right? That doesn't make a difference at all. The way in which we elect those things, that doesn't matter, right? Simply having an executive head, right, who carries out the will of the government, right, versus the king. Now, for myself, I've been very clear that I'm not pro-monarchy. However, there is a certain advantage of having a monarchy, right? And we see this all the time. We see this play out constantly. We see that people, right, and you should be familiar with this living in the States. People need a leader to look up to worship, right? This happens all the time. And in the UK, they have the Queen, right? They worship the royal family. Some people, the royalists, right, will worship the royal family. But that's separate, right? That adoration is separate from what is directed to the executive, right? Those things are separate. On the other hand, for us, since the head of state is the same as the executive, right? That adoration, undue adoration, goes to the executive, people actually making our laws. So look at MAGA, right? And not just MAGA, right? But going back in the past, look at the cult of personality around President Obama. If you separate those two, right? If these two are no longer tied together, and you have people who love their king, right, want to bow down to their king or their queen or whatever, then that allows people to look at the policies of the executive with a clearer mind when voting. What do you all think?
Yeah, so the question being basically, hey, let's remove necessary adoration for our head of state effectively and make it so it's totally separate. We don't get bogged down with that when it comes to our elections. Mm-hmm. I think that sounds like a good idea until we eventually have somehow the family member that is that head of that monarch happen to be a Trump, and then they just decide, oh, I'm the monarch, I'm going to give myself power. yeah, in a lot of systems that they're built, they don't have that option, but you get enough of a populist uprising around you to do so, we can't really stop that. Allowing a monarch to come back into America in any form, whatever little gains we may get relative to our social pressures of our politics, will be overweighed by the fact that we have given undue power and like imports to one family that doesn't deserve
But the
it.
same can be said about any president, right?
So with this
Oh, we
being said,
at
there's
least choose the
if
presidents.
a constitutional monarch would force political power onto people. If you were born under the current king or queen, you would be next up in line in this monarch. And so with that, it would not guarantee the quality of rule of the monarch. So you may have someone who is a great king or a great queen, but their son could be a complete disaster and decide that nothing matters anymore and be a very bad quality of rule.
No.
One of the last issues I have is it doesn't force neutrality. A monarch does not force neutrality in any case, shape, or form.
Once again, so I'll state it again. So this is the UK model, right? And under that, the royal family doesn't have any power. So it doesn't matter if was the next one's Prince Andrew or something, whatever, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He doesn't have any power to do anything, right? He can be a dick. Is no concern about us, right? The concern here is that the people have a leader to follow and to worship, right? And because some people simply need someone to worship. We see this in MAGA. MAGAs make this very clear. People need someone to worship, someone to adore, right?
Yeah.
When you see Republicans, right, say that this person, our president, is sent here by God, right? God placed them on the presidency, right? And so whatever they say, right, whatever that president puts forward is an edict from God. See, that's a problem. That's a terrible problem, right? So we can separate that adoration, right, and put it in the power of a king who's not going to do shit any which way, right, and have people on both sides of the aisle be able to look at the actions of the presidency with a clear eye, right, and scorn, because scorn is very important, with scorn on any of their actions. That would be an improvement in our democracy, is my position.
Yeah. So here's my direct aspect to you from it. Do you think that the people that are like PMs in the UK don't have a similar level of adoration and scorn? Like, do you think Corbyn had a cult of personality? Do you think that in Australia Tony Blair had a cult of personality? These people might not have been the executor, but they had the same amount of political upheaval and push behind them most of the time.
Australia does not have does not look at the royalty the same way as the people in the UK, right? You could talk to people in Australia, you can talk to people in Canada, and they do not feel the same way about royalty.
Then I guess my example should just be Corbyn and David Cameron, right?
Idolized. It's more about so basically it sounds like your prime goal, this justification is basically okay, we're gonna shift this irrational populist type of thinking and to try and get these monarchs, so all that irrational thinking goes over to this person, and so then we can all be nice, we're post-Coombe fucking clarity for our politicians. But the reality is, we can see even within these other countries that follow the UK monarch, they still engage with the populist thinking within their prime ministers and their elected officials. But there's also the secondary issue, though, necessarily a power consolidation when the parties within the elected offices necessarily align with the monarch in power, and then grant the monarch power that cannot be then later revoked.
Right. So I think you kind of nailed it there, Smug. Right? That the only way we get Boris Johnson is populist sentiment, right?
Yeah. So but the issue is with some of these policies, they can be implemented in a way that aren't necessarily being retracted out. For example, with the Thai monarchy, is they have legislation where effectively if you talk ill of the family of any of the members within it, in particular the Thai king, you will be fucking imprisoned. And how the fuck, and once that law is passed, how the hell do you actually revoke that law without going to prison? You can't be a fucking politician and say, hey, I'm gonna put in this law that's gonna get rid of this privilege for the family. Well, all the family has to say is, hey, that defames me, you are now in jail.
Sure.
And so you got these issues that are created from this power consolidation.
I will let some other people in, and I can answer any of your questions later on. But I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the sub. It's really awfully kind of you. All right, let's go to Omni. He's been waiting. Kat, do you want to go afterwards? Okay, Omni, Kat, and then Sprout. If you want to have your hand up, let me know. All right.
Yeah.
I think that what's been said is largely correct, that there's still the same adoration even in places that have constitutional monarchy. And it seems like Americans are just kind of fucking insane, so would be more prone to forming these cults of personalities, even if we had a monarchy. I mean, it's not like, there's some firm trade-off between adoring a monarch and adoring, a non-monarch. But in terms of systems of government, given that we're sort of going in to be in agreement, I'll give quite a hot take, which is I think that instead of democracy, we should have Futarchy. Futarchy is an alternative system of government. The slogan is vote values, bet beliefs. The way it works is there would be a system decided upon that provides a metric for determining if policies are successful. So, for example, policies impact on the GDP plus. GDP plus is a measure that takes into account both the GDP, how people subjectively rate their quality of life, environmental quality, etc. So you set up the system, and then you make it so you set up a betting market where people bet on whether the GDP plus will be higher after a policy passes or whether it'll be lower after a policy passes. And if the policy is predicted to increase GDP plus, then the policy would pass. And if it's predicted to decrease GDP plus, then the policy would not pass. This would be a better policy for a couple of reasons. First is that it's just comparatively better than the ill-informed choices made by voters in a democracy. So the majority of voters cannot name the 3 branches of government. About a quarter of voters can't name any branches of government. A lot of
Can you answer me this one question? One question. Just who gets to vote in this? Is it everyone? I just wanted to know that, and then please continue.
People with money get to bet.
So everyone gets to vote upon the metric, but then the betting system is how we decide if policies pass or not.
Okay, so everyone gets to vote, but you only get to pass it if you have money to pass it, basically. Everybody has to put their money as a buy-in.
Sort of. So the
insane.
policy, so the policy, whether it passes, is decided by the betting market. But the betting market has a financial incentive to count all people. And so it's not like rich people will just do whatever they want. Because if I bet that this policy, let's say I say that if we give me $1 billion, that would boost GDP plus, and I bet on that, well, then other people are like, no, that would obviously not boost GDP plus. Other people would bet against me, so I would lose the bet. And so as a result of that, self-correcting scheme. Wait, sorry, can I just finish the point?
Let him finish this point, please.
Which is why in lab experiments you find that there's of these betting markets, you find that there's very little tampering, and it's very infrequent that people attempt to weight the market, because if someone's trying to manipulate the market, other people have an incentive to bet against the guys who are manipulating the market.
Right, Omni, you just said earlier in your statement that we need to have this transition and change because people are too stupid to know the branches of government. How in the world are you going to fight against that if somebody like Jeff Bezos or another large multi-billionaire comes in and pushes one specific law, which will definitely help them and could help GDP plus, but will definitely help them more? How would you stop that from occurring? If everyone's so dumb, they can't reasonably be expected to vote right.
Well, no, I mean, if it would boost GDP plus, then it's a good policy. So even
insane. Freaking insane. You're basically setting up Omni. You need to know this. You're setting up a system. You're setting up a system where the richer you are, the more likely you are to succeed. And that is not the system that would best effectuate everyone else's life and that plus of that GDP plus. It might help GDP, but it's not going to help everybody.
Taking public policy.
Wait. Can I respond?
Please.
Yeah, okay. Cancel is deeply confused about this, okay? So the way that they bet on whether it would improve the quality of life of people generally, given that GDP plus is a relatively good indicator of the quality of life of people generally. And so it is less relevant who's the one doing the betting and more relevant what their incentives are. They have an incentive to figure out the policies that would work and implement them, which is why lab experiments are generally betting markets are extremely efficient ways of allocating information. Betting markets consistently outpredict experts about the elections. They consistently outpredict experts when it comes to weather, when it comes to predictions of printer sales in a year versus the printer companies themselves. And in experiments, when this has been done and tried on a small scale, there has not been tampering, because if a person tampers with the market, we have economic theory that says that other people will have an incentive against them. to bet against them.
Yes.
And then we have empirical evidence that says that doesn't happen.
In your system, it presupposes that we have the information to know that some policy that is being pushed isn't being done or is being done by some specific actor. If Jeff Bezos or Alphabet from Google or any other large corporation or company pushes something that's like, hey, we need to do space travel because that's really good for our economy, it's really good for us to have scientific development, and that actually at the end of this policy, all that money goes directly to Jeff Bezos, it might improve GDP plus generally, just a little bit, but it's going to definitely improve the GDP of Jeff Bezos' bank account even more. How do we stop that if we don't have access to that kind of information? And also, if we're in a betting market, how do we stop people with more money having outside say relative to the specific policies that are passed? That's exactly how you get to corporatocracy that we're in right now.
Can I answer the first question before you ask more? Okay, so to answer the first question, so one, the betting that entities would do would be public. Two, if it was predicted to boost GDP plus overall, then it's a good policy. And so regardless of whether it's disproportionately go to Jeff Bezos, if people are made generally better off, then that's a good policy. And importantly, I mean, even if the system is somewhat imperfect, it's way better than democracy, where there are massive conflicts of interest, large amounts of governmental lobbying, and overall just enormous amounts of corruption.
So here's the thing.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. We gotta. This is like a hard tangent.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm interested in tackling this. We can do this on open panel. Would love to come back to this. Just like we did last time with Omni suggestion. But yeah, if you want to do that. But I want to get back to other people because other people can't, because they don't know anything about this. So they can't participate. So Kat?
Yeah, so I don't know. Just to go ahead and get some of that weird like parasocial energy off, should we go ahead and put like a constitutional monarchy? I still don't entirely agree. And I know that like the Canadian system is quite different from the UK system, but overall all of us are going ahead and putting in money just to go ahead and like release some of our parasocial energy. That's a bit weird. It's a lot of money that we end up spending in tax dollars per year. Obviously, like in comparison to like I guess America's military budget, it's not that much, but it just kind of seems weird to go ahead and like put it away like 0.1% of everybody's income taxes just so that we can go ahead and house people that will just sit there and like breed for the purpose of like everybody just being like, yay, weddings, yes, they're having kids. Oh, like I don't know, it's just I don't like, should we really go ahead and like put in like a whole new system of government just so people could be like, oh, they made a black woman,
how many do you think, right? Like looking at, and MAGA is just a perfect example. So but they're not the only ones. So I don't want to just make it clear that they're not the only ones, but they're an easy example. Do you think that the MAGA movement and there are ways that they interact with Trump and the presidency and the executive and how they view these things, right? Do you think that is a negative for America?
It was a net negative, but it's also like that was a bit of a general anomaly. It is okay. Sorry, I'm trying to. I've been pouring bleach on my brain ever since he got out of office to forget. I apologize. But like I don't know. Like that's an anomaly when it comes to the general like sentiment that we have towards presidents. Yes, no matter what, we do pay like a lot of attention. Like Malia went to this school, yay! But like it's not as like intense as like everybody's like sitting there and like playing a game of Soggy Biscuit to the fact that like Harry's getting married. Woo! Like it's not like a point of conversation like the way it is like I don't know, in Canada people like were coming up to me, they're like, wow, I'm so happy that he married a black woman. I'm like, do you want something from me? Like why are you talking to me about this? But I don't really think that's like something that generally like just to kind of get that energy dispersed. Should we go ahead and finance it? I don't think so.
So one, I would say that the amount of money put into this, right, is infinitesimal as to the improvement it will have in our democracy. If we can actually get people to not worship the executive, right? And then on the other side, hold on, I gotta answer everything, right? And we also have Sprout and Simmons who are in line. But And then to say, oh yes, well it wasn't as bad under Obama. That's true, right? It wasn't. However, being black, right, and being political, talking to individuals, I know this firsthand, and this you could just see this play out within the culture, right? That when you talked about President Obama, right, when you said anything about him, especially that was negative, uh, to other members of the black community, right? There'd be a moment where their eyes would just like roll up in the back of their heads. They just unfocus, right? Like
Right.
this
You
is
know,
not
there's this really
happening.
cool thing where like I'm black too, right? So like
Okay,
yeah, like
I don't
I
know.
know that. Like oh like I too am a member of the black culture, but like I know like the way that people react when
I'm
you talk
explaining this
about
to
it.
the rest of the
Like
the,
okay,
the
okay, man,
audience.
here you go. Get educated.
Okay, so I'm explaining this to the rest of the audience that people would not think of Obama's actions critically. It's just not a thing that happened, right? Even within the black community. I thought it was terrible when I saw it happen. I thought it was terrible under Bush. And then I'm like, oh, well, Democrats would never do the same thing. Well, no, they did. They did exactly the same thing under Obama. It was a left-wing person. Like, well, no, he's right. No, he's absolutely right. I mean, he's on our side. And why would you question that? And then Trump took it to a whole nother level, right? So to help avoid that, why not have a king? So let me move on to Sprout and then Sinus.
Okay. Hashtag not my president. Hashtag never Trump. I can go on for days with the hashtags that were put against Trump when Trump was running for president throughout Trump's presidency. With that being said, MAGA chose someone that they adored. So we're going to talk about MAGA right now. MAGA chose someone that they adored, although the entire country did not agree with it. If we have a king or we have a queen, or we have anyone who's a monarch, the entire country is not going to agree with it. And the issue here relies with the American independency, the way we like to be independent, right? We like to think of ourselves as independent. With that being said, we don't like to be told that this is your king, this is your queen. You must never disrespect the king or queen, even if it's just a ceremonial role, right? So with that being said, your whole idea that this is going to fix America because we're going to have a leader we can all back is just nonsense. The American culture will never accept one leader 100%. They haven't since George Washington. And so with that being said, it's not going to happen. Not everyone's going to fall behind one person and say, yes, they should be king, they should be queen. It's not going to happen unless you start silencing people and putting people in jail who don't have the same ideas that you do, which is just ironically un-American.
What the fuck?
So my question was earlier, like, was there not? I don't exactly know. So this is a question. Do people not have like a slight cult of personality when it comes to like Boris? Like, do people not generally like rally like really unrelentlessly?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. I thought it was kind of crazy. Like Boris Johnson in the UK clearly had populist sentiment that got him into his position, right? He got Brexit, and it wasn't Nigel Farage who became the PM. It was Boris Johnson, who is like Trump, kind of supposed to be an everyman, cares about your local Brit, right? So, like, no, the populist sentiment exists even in these countries which have cult of personalities. You could say the same about Trudeau to some extent, right?
Nope. So it didn't say that there wouldn't be populist sentiment. No one said that. No, I never introduced that. That's all you. Just because people there is a populist candidate, like doesn't mean that because there is a king, right, that populism cannot settle into a country.
Okay,
like
fair enough.
Those things are separate. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I would say.
Hold on. Snaz has been waiting forever.
Yeah, it's all good. I think that the main thing also, like I think one of the main things I agree with is Smug's point about how, like, I don't think just creating another like thing is going to completely separate, like, you know, these kind of different forms of, I don't know, thought in some ways. But I think that my main thing is like implementation. I feel like at this stage is like not ever going to be possible, not just in the United States, but in general with like the internet and things like that. People are so divisive and divided and shit like that. I mean, you see Biden, his entire inauguration was like trying to be a centrist Andy, trying to like appeal to both sides. I am your like his rhetoric, you like go like line by line. It's all like, I'm going to be everyone's president. I'm going to be Republicans and Democrats president. Yet still he's hated like by like half the country, like super like, I don't, you know, you can say whatever you want about that, but that's just how the way it is. Right. And it obviously did not work. And I'm not sure like being able to put a third party, like neutral person would ever be possible at this point, because everything is politicized, especially with the internet and especially with like, giving agency to every single person on the internet.
Yeah, like it seems to kind of go back to like that thing of like that you already mentioned before. Like if the goal is literally to get people's attention off other things, then literally that's what fucking professional sports are for. Like that's what all these fucking aside entertainments that we spend billions upon billions of dollars are for. So like literally to get our irrational ideas of our fucking like what's Kim K up to with that booty shake and the fucking wine pop, so then we can like then get our rational critical thinking brains on for politics. But like obviously that's not necessarily how it works. But at the same time though, like something would tell me though, like Prime in particular, because like I know you're not all in on it, but you're the contester right now, is that like you would be against like these various entertainment agencies that are actively engaging or trying to get the results that you are desiring for from here because of the amount of money and the amount of exploitation of these individuals and the actual negative side effects that these systems cause. Because when we look at it, like the actual side effects that are being caused are still more harmful than the positive side effects of just having a distraction.
Right. And so I would say, to be a little more clear, Prime, you're right. I should have just said populist sentiment, but what you were kind of describing was a more populist fervor, like a cult of personality around a specific individual who props them up as if they're some sort of cult leader or god or what have you, right? People who thought Trump was the second coming, right? This would still occur, at least in my eyes, to basically any American politician who got enough people's eyeballs on him. Even though Bernie Sanders never won and became president, he saw its own little cult of personality. We don't like to talk about it on the left because, it's not very fair. It's just Bernie. But it happened there too. It doesn't really matter what position they're running for. A person like Beto O'Rourke down in Texas can gather up, an actual charismatic leader-esque level of people around them for any level of position of government. It won't actually remove us from that by saying that we have some figurehead that we can push off some of that feeling towards, at least in America.
So what Bernie Sanders experienced, right? That cannot be compared, not even close to what was experienced by, not even, we can push Trump aside, by President Bush. Those things were not at all analogous, right? And not even what Obama experienced. Absolutely not. Those things are not on the same level.
Okay, so if we want to say he was a little bit lesser, I can agree to that. But would you disagree that Beto O'Rourke in Texas got a bit of cult personality around him, and he ended up losing it?
People have magnetic personalities. Once again, people can be drawn to politicians. That'll happen. Like what? Did you,
okay.
But I'm saying
so you're
no, because like you said it yourself, right? When people thought Trump as the second coming, and that's not a hyperbole. Not we're just putting that out there. When you said that, right, and I agreed. That's a thing that some people felt like this is God has put his hands on Trump's shoulders, right? And he is pushing, and he is guiding him. He is guiding him to make America great. Like and then you say that, and then the next breath you're like, oh yeah, Beto O'Rourke. What? What? Beto?
Yeah. So here's the thing, Prime. We don't see it nearly the same way because Trump was a really public-facing figure, and this is their comment about presidencies, right? Same thing with Bush and Obama before them. But there are people in our country who looked at Beto O'Rourke as some savior of Texas. There are people in our country who looked at Bernie as the savior of the left. We do this. We naturally do this. You can say it's a magnetic personality or what have you, but it happens on all levels. Yes, in our current America, the right wing seems to be much worse about it. Their guy is, given from God. The enemy is commie, hate, scum, evil, bad, right? That seems to be a problem that we have to handle and deal with, but it wouldn't go away because we had some figurehead at the top of our government. It would still exist and it would continue forward, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. So Prime is the whole idea of having a constitutional monarchy is to kind of unify the American people. Is that the idea that you have behind the constitutional monarchy?
Less to unify. I mean, possibly, right? Like if the monarch themselves is popular enough, possibly. But that's a side benefit. More is to deal with this habit of humanity to worship its leaders. That's really the main focus. Does that make sense? I hope.
So it makes a little bit of sense, but do you think it's still not going to happen, right? Because even though Trump may have been seen as this savior of the America and God put his hands on Trump to guide America in the right direction, do you not think that the Republicans in Florida thought that they were saved by Ron DeSantis? We can go all the way down we can go all the way down this chain and find someone else who they thought, oh, this is the savior of our county. This is the savior of our city. And so it goes all the way down the chain. Adding in a king or adding in a queen is going to do nothing but cost Americans money to ceremonially say this person is our figurehead. Because that's all they would be. Underneath what you're saying is that they'd be a figurehead. And it's going to be a large amount of money to not solve the solution that you're trying to solve.
Okay. That's the round, so you'll have the last word on that. And then
it pains me I agree with the Spartacus.
Spartacus is a good guy.
Yeah.
But okay, to my audience, what we will do is begin voting. All right, so we're going to do another round of voting. You're going to be voting for which one of these individuals, not me, which is arguing with these people, but which one of these individuals did a good job dealing with my big brain takes. None of them did, but still, pick one of them. And and vote for who we want to continue on to the next round, who is the most popular, most interesting and funniest, whatever is your criteria. Vote for that individual. Vote for who gets to stay, not who leaves, who gets to stay, right? So you're going to have 5.
All right, Chad. This is my like my actual like big trap card. Okay, vote for me and the cat.
Okay. So now's the time. You'll have 5 minutes left on the clock to do it. 5 minutes. Link is in chat. Please, please, please. Vote. And 5 minutes on the clock. Now, you all can talk about what you want while we do that, but everyone vote right now.
Yeah, Chad, if you're in this situation where you need someone to worship, you can worship me. It's okay. You can give me donos and votes. It's fine. Don't feel ashamed of it. You can. I get it. Jesus, he's sometimes there for you, but I can be there for you all the time. Guess what? I'll make the hard claim. I can be supportive of you. Can Jesus be in your DMs? No, but I can be.
Okay, well, that was a little creepy.
Sure. Great pitch, man.
Okay. But,
I got the Coomer vote now. So.
Okay. Yeah, but I still, like, again, I'm not like a monarchist. Like, fuck that. Like, I've said many terrible things about like the idea of monarchy. I wanted to respond to something I think Sprout has said. Maybe someone else did. And if it wasn't you, I apologize. Talking about the Thai royal family. Was that you, Sprout?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Again, that's not what we're advocating for, right? For the no. Maybe it might have been Smug as well. Because talking about like how you can't talk back about the Thai royal family. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. And there's actually a movement against that was happening recently. I haven't kept up with what was happening in Thailand, but there was like a big outpouring of the young folk against that system, because like the current prince is like super corrupt and for all kinds of reasons. It's amazing, actually. It's a fascinating story. But yeah, I certainly would not want anything like that. And I thought Smug gave a good point. Well, like if like a law of that sort like passes, right, then what do you do about it? Like, how do you retract something like that if in their fervor to worship, I mean, I guess maybe have like within the Constitution saying you can't do something like that, right? That you do have freedom of speech, right? Like we already have that, so if that will cover it, well, I don't know.
The issue of it is that it wouldn't matter at that point, because once it bestow, like unlike with like within, for example, the American Constitution, like if we have the majority of people, like yeah, we can literally amend the Constitution, like if there's enough support for it to make it to a policy that's completely fucking repulsive, but at least under our system that can be reverted.
We can do the same thing.
But no, it's not literally the same thing, because if you have that monarchical system, even though you can have a shift, you have this initial shift with the monarch agreeing, but now if all you have to do is add this one extra provision, within your constitutional chain saying, okay, the monarch has to give approval on everything. Well, now you've just created a system that cannot be unchanged because within your and there's
Oh,
racial.
yeah.
No,
So Prime,
no,
when we
no, no, no. Let me respond to him first before I have to respond to two people. No, what you're saying is like, oh, add this one extra provision. That one extra provision would be a constitutional amendment. So, like I said, same system, adding a king on top of that, right? So,
Yes,
and under that, but under that system, right, that you would have to go through the same effort. So, if there was an effort, right, that successfully put in a constitutional amendment, all right, well then that's one thing, right? But constitutional amendments are very difficult things to happen, right? So it's not just like, oh, just add a provision, right? Well, yeah, like you mean repealing free speech, add the provision that repeals free speech. Is basically what you just asked for, right? Or you've said what would happen.
I obviously use the hypothetical, a hyperbolic hypothetical to get this point across.
Okay.
I mean, so.
Okay, so Prime, I think I can elucidate this for you a little bit, okay? It's not just one proposition or like one constitutional amendment, but basically something happens, the monarch gets a lot of people around them that really like them, they push and push and push to get a constitutional amendment, which basically says the monarch gets to have final say on rules and laws, and then they have some of their friends pass a law which says, hey, unless the monarch signs off on this thing, it can't be changed without an 85% vote majority or whatever in these lower houses. Suddenly then that specific monarch will never be removed from power, will never actually be able to be checked effectively by that body. It can take a couple things. When you derive that power to one sole person, much in the same way you would be worried about us giving too much power or deference to one president, it's even worse with a monarch, because once they have solidified power for themselves, it's very hard to remove it. It takes many revolutions to get to the constitutional monarchy. It takes many revolutions to get to the Magna Carta.
But yeah, but the UK still, after all this time, has not slid into this dystopia, right? Like,
this is fair.
Yeah, we can actually look at real life examples. The 5 minutes of amendments are up for voting. Okay, and hope you did vote. The links were in chat. But if you didn't, well, okay. Bad day for you. All right, and for whoever might get eliminated because of that. All right, so gonna refresh. Take a look. All right, voting is being quite consistent here. All right, number one this time is my man Sprouticus at the top, conservative, taking the lead. Right, exchanging places with Kat, so she's number two. The crowd has chosen clearly, right? On the other end, we have Snez at the bottom. Right, there we go. Far away from our winner circle is my man Smug, who I do appreciate, who I love and appreciate. Right there. And then finally, cancel by one vote. This is where democracy. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotta make me the monarch. You're right.
There you go. All right. See what solved all this. But yeah. In fact, okay. Well, we'll move forward. All right. So we have these three. They will be begging our top two as to why they should be able to stay. All right. So we'll start with cancel. Why should Sprouticus, your one true king, right? And Cat, keep you.
All right. So to Sprouticus, you should keep me around because I think it will have a more interesting conversation for the topics that are left. As far as trying to get your opinion on a thing, just be happy I didn't take you to task on your Trump King meme. I only laughed at it. And then for Catarana, I made sure to do some insurance, okay? You made a comment to Captain A. Jones that he didn't even follow you. I made sure at that exact moment, I was like, oh shit, how the fuck do I actually not follow Catarana? Clearly, that was a mistake on my part, okay? I wish to say that I'm absolved of that. I follow you. Please keep me.
Okay. Mug.
Okay. To Sprout, I'm a vet. Yeah, I know that's enough for you. I know. For Catarana, I know you're anti-simp gang, so I'm not gonna simp for you. I'm just gonna say, the content I bring. You know that spice, and that's it. I don't have to say more to you guys. Shit, you know me.
Okay. Next is SNES.
Yeah, what's up, team? It was a fun time. I don't know. I think to Sprout, I was just too busy, I guess, listening to. I agreed with you actually this time for most of the time, so I had a hard time actually saying anything. So I was like, okay, all right, rare occasion, but I'll take it. And then Cat, of course, I I can't just repeat the physics thing, so I guess I can repeat I can do a Canadian appeal maybe this time. Maybe you know, like Canadian also, but
But what part of Canuckistan do you live in?
BC. Well, I don't live there. My family's from there, so.
Damn, I'm a Quebec separatist, so you can kiss my ass.
Yeah, maybe that's a mistake. Actually, I'm from Quebec. I don't know what I said. It kind of slipped there. I had a...
Sack blur, dude. Tabernacle.
All right. So before these two send their DMs, which they will do, just remember that there is a role, and I haven't yet to use it, but there's a role that for one time per game, I can rescue an individual. All right. So thank you. You guys can send your DMs right now, so just be aware of that. One more person, just send the DM. Very anytime soon. Be very useful. You can do that. Okay. They have spoken. The winners have decided. All right. So, Smug, Buddy, Pal, Compadre, I'm gonna miss you. Smug is an incredible mod for this channel. He does a whole bunch for us, right? He helps keep this channel running. But Smug, you didn't charm the audience this time. I'm sorry about that, buddy.
That's okay. I resent chat as much as they resent me, so it's mutual. Oh, who was it? Was it Sprout? Did the veteran like backstab me?
I won't.
Is there veteran violence?
I won't say. There's no need to say. I won't say. It's not. There's no need to say. But Smug, thank you so much for being around. But who's following off the door? Cancel. I don't know how you've made it this far, but you have. So, Sinez, you're leaving.
Hey.
Yeah.
The second time you've done that to me, Brian, you did me both times.
Snez, thank you for joining us. It was nice meeting you.
It was nice to meet you guys. First debate. You know, whatevs. I'm Sens Rules. You can follow me at twitch.tv/Sens Rules or anything else. So it's all the same tag. But yeah, thank you so much.
Next time I'll work on actually getting your name right. I was saying it wrong in all kinds of ways. I think I got actually worse.
That pronunciation. No, you're good. Okay, bye everyone.
Have a good one. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. All right. So moving on, right? And only champions left. Only winners left here. All right. Moving on to our next round. So that you would think that means I'd picked a topic. I haven't, as always. I'm conflicted. Oh God. All right. What is the next topic? Which one will you two respond to? Okay. We'll do it this way. Should the voting age be lowered? All right. You have 25 minutes left on the clock. Go at it.
Yes, the voting age should be lowered because I think all ages are idiots. So I don't think it really matters. But age, for all I care, it could be pre-K. It's not like anybody that's 50 has much more intelligent than a pre-K person. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. I think it should be like 16 though. When a lot of people do get quite politically engaged by that time, and if they aren't, then they just won't vote. But I think a lot of 16-year-olds are making really significant moves in terms of politics. So they should actually be able to contribute to society, and more than just putting in their hours, they should be able to go ahead and participate in the civil liberty as well. And yeah, that's where I'm going to start off. I'm not going to go ahead and gish gallop for too long.
Yeah, I feel that. Oh, yeah, no, I feel that it would be more of parents kind of influencing the vote at this point, and I like the age that it's at 18, simply because people typically, graduate high school, get more experience, and their worldview changes a little bit. I would go on the opposite end and maybe say people after the age of 80 shouldn't vote anymore, but no.
Interesting.
and then that, I don't know. That's kind of a joke, but kind of not. I need to develop some thoughts here, but it was coming up as I was thinking of my answers here. And so, yeah.
So I think this is going to be a kind of a weirdly like centristy take between the positions of like change it to lower or don't change it. I think for party primaries, we should make the age lower so that when you're 16, as Katarana put out, that you can vote for the primaries for the DNC and the RNC. They're not actually, government organizations, they're private parties, and they have this, they can just do this right now with like no passing of bills or laws or whatever. And I think that'd be a very useful way to bring younger kids into politics without having to like figure out, okay, what's the exact line that we should say you're smart enough to vote? As Katarana also made the point, we don't really have a good line for that. We can say, hey, maybe we'd have to push the voting age to 25, and nobody's okay with that. Okay, well, maybe we can bring it down as low as 14 or 15, and then we get questionable on that end too. So I would say move primaries and thus voting for your party candidates down to 16. If kids aren't actually going to be that, politically engaged, then they just don't vote in primaries like most Americans.
So
I really like that.
Sorry. Here's what we need to do. We need to keep the voting age at 18. The voting age needs to remain at 18. But what we are going to do aside from that, or what I think is a good idea to do aside from that, is to make anyone who is younger than 18 does not have an income tax. They do not get taxed on their paychecks if they go to work. So there is no taxation without representation. When after you turn 18, you are then taxed, but before 18, you are not taxed because you have not been able to choose your representation. With that being said, the 18-year-olds, if you are able to serve and die for your country, then you should be able to vote. This is a ridiculous. The moving it to 25 is a ridiculous movement. To say that someone who served for 6 years can't vote, that would be absolutely ridiculous. I'm also pro if you are able to serve and die for your country, you should be able to make any decision an adult would be able to make. So therefore, I'm also for pushing everything, every other legal limit down to the age of 18.
I don't really think that going ahead and implementing it that way is necessarily better, especially since, like, as I had said before, like a lot of people that are younger are actually quite politically informed. The whole Fridays for Future protests were a lot of it were gone ahead and propagated by people that were like 14, 16, etc. And they're making really huge strides to go ahead and actually do something for the country, do things for politics, do things for the world. So I just kind of feel like it's unfair to have people be so politically engaged and yet miss out on this like very fundamental right. And as I don't think I'm just going ahead and saying, oh, well, they're too young to go ahead and make up these ideas by themselves because they're going to be too, influenced by their family. That's just generally pretty strange to me because people at all ages are quite influenced by their family. That's how a lot of us end up choosing what our voting lines are based off of some experiences that we've had growing up, based off of what our family is like. So even if you're not actually being told by your parents, vote for this person, your entire like life decisions are sometimes motivated by what you grew up with. So I just don't really entirely understand the whole train of logic where like younger people can't do this.
Amanda?
And let's just take away the taxes.
So you also so underneath the age of 18, you also can't decide you can't decide anything pretty much because you're a child. Most to all things that we're talking about require a parental consent, right? Unless you are I'm forgetting the word, unless you're legally separated from your parents. Emancipated. So unless you're emancipated, almost everything that has consequences to it requires a parental consent. And so with that being said, I don't think parental consent should apply in voting. I don't think parents should consent to their kid voting. That would just be the parents telling their kid who they should vote for, and then consenting that they should be able to vote. Because if someone's hard red and their kid is Democratic, they're not going to consent for their kid to vote. If someone's hard Democratic and their kid's Republican, they're not going to consent for their kid to vote. So with that being said, I'll stick to my statement. 18 and above for voting, and anything underneath that, you shouldn't be taxing your paycheck.
Let's go to Amanda.
Yeah, no, Kat brought up a good point in regards to like parents and whatnot having the opposite effect. I was more thinking about parents who could use it as another way to like kick out their kids or make threats and things like that. So if they don't vote the way that they want them to. But I once again agree with Sprout. I don't know what's going on tonight.
No idea. It's a phenomenon.
It's unfortunate when the conservative take isn't like, we're going to remove money from the poor, and it's instead like 18 sounds fine.
Omni?
Yeah, so I agree with that. I think that, I think most voters are kind of dumb and ill-informed, but I think particularly voters under the age of the example was given the Fridays for our future people. I think the Fridays for our future people are a paradigmatic example of, people under the age of 18 being uninformed. I think Omni, me, is a good example of people under the age of 18 being very informed. But, for example, like the Friday for our future people, they made the claim that there was a high chance that global warming is going to wipe out humanity and end civilization. That is not what the scientific consensus says. The scientific consensus is that climate change is a thing and it will be bad, but it will not result in the collapse of civilizations. The only paper that purported to find they would collapse civilization was the Spratt and Dunlop paper, which had a series of methodological problems. It used.
Hey, do you want me to find a really fun comparison for you? The only paper that says that vaccines cause autism is one paper, and people are still anti-vaxxers, and they're also
those people are stupid.
Yeah, great. But what I'm saying is we don't go ahead and decide who gets to vote based off of IQ test, or can you actually read scientific documents properly? We go ahead and choose who gets to vote just based off of this arbitrary age. And there's also people that participate in things like Friday of Future, who are college students. My student union was really big in Friday's Future, and a bunch of them are 25-year-olds. So at the end of the day, these are not things that you become smarter or more competent or anything because you suddenly hit being alive for 365 days times 18. There's no actual line in which you're now suddenly this just really woke and understanding person. But the really fun thing about voting is that it's not obligatory. So if there are people that are younger that don't give a fuck, they just won't vote because that's what happens now. There's 18-year-olds and a lot of them just don't vote. So what the whole point is to go ahead and give people that are actually very passionate about politics, that are doing things that care a lot about the future, the place that they live in, and are able to have enough conscientiousness in which they realize, hey, I don't want this person to be president. I want this person to be president, et cetera, and allow them to vote. So yes, we could say there's a lot of people that are don't care, are stupid, unpassionate, and as happens right now, only 33 or 40% of them will vote.
So if as Bill Maher, learn something new every day, then if you have more days, then you will have learned more things. I think that generally we learn things.
You're cutting out a little bit. I don't know what's going on.
Sorry.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Generally, I think you would expect older people to be better informed. However, we don't only want people above 50 to vote, obviously, because it's important that people have representation. But if we were lowering the voting age to just allow a lot of generally uninformed people to vote, who are generally more uninformed than the rest of the population, then that seems like a bad idea. Well, it's true what was brought up that generally less informed people are less likely to vote. That's also true of upper voting age people. So it's not about whether or not they're more informed than the average person. It's about whether they're more informed than the average voter, and it seems like they're less informed than the average voter. The point about how we don't vote on who is the most informed. Well, I think that I care about good consequences, and so I think that we should have a system voting that makes things go best. And I think if it
Omni, this is going to be a bit of a straw man, but try and take this at its face value. Back in the day, they made the argument that it made more sense. They didn't have the word for utilitarianism, but they basically said it made more sense to have people who had skin in the game, who owned property and land, to be the people to vote, because clearly they would care about the buy-in relative to the system, and they'd be more informed about politics because it could affect their property, their housing, and this is why only landowning white males could vote.
Yeah, so I think that there's a overwhelmingly strong case to be made that only allowing land-owning white males to would not result in the best consequences for people because it results in the disenfranchisement, and it resulted in policies that resulted in massive structural violence to people who are not landowning white males. So we generally want.
I 100% agree, and I would say to you that not allowing people that are younger than the age of 18 to have import into politics will lead to situations where they are dismissed from the political realm. If you wish for them to be more informed and thus vote as an informed voter, then the only way that we could actually meaningfully do this is by giving them that access so that they can. In countries like Switzerland, they have a specific portion of their head executive, of their 8 people, be a person who is voted by the young people. Because this is a distinct interest from, say, the old people. And it matters. That's why it's useful. As Sprout said, he's wrong for why. But you can't have taxation without representation. By having these people who have no import into politics, they can easily become that class like everyone that was not landowning white males.
Okay, so explain to me the like causal mechanism by how having generally uninformed relative to the general population 16-year-olds voting will make things go best. Because the other example that you gave is the reason why I'm a.
So I can give you a really good example. And this is one that like people joke about a lot, right? You care about the drinking age being 21 until you're 21, then suddenly you never talk about it again. And that's a very obvious, not super important example. A more important one is that as it stands right now, you need parental consent unless you're emancipated to get a vaccine, right? Even if at 14 or 15, you've made the determination that you wish to get a vaccine for your own safety and your parents are anti-vax, not your choice right now. A law which says, hey, you don't need to be perfectly emancipated from your parents to secretly go get a vaccine for the flu because you're worried about it would be a useful law, which we will never discuss unless someone that is young enough can bring up this issue. It's why every time we have a presidential election, you'll have some random kid who's 14 who runs for president because they view the law that says you must be 35 to run for president as egregious and unfair, as basically being a law which discriminates based on age. So we're doing the same thing here.
So this is not about informed voting. There's a lot of disinformed voters. If we were going to talk about informed voting, we would be talking about having tests that people take before they're allowed to vote. That would be the conversation we would be having if we're talking about informed voting. Because I've seen some people who are 40 years old and voted for Hillary Clinton, and I asked, so I know this is true, for the sole purpose that she was a female candidate. Okay, so we have uninformed voters. And that's not the issue we run into when we're talking about kids. When I talk about kids, we're talking about people who haven't gone through puberty yet, people who haven't made up their minds yet, people who have decided that they're going to be rebellious against their parents. They haven't reached through that rebellious stage. 18 generally is a good time frame in which you can say that they've separated from their family because they're now a legal adult to where they can move out of their family, they can make up their own minds, they can choose to do whatever they want to do. They should be able to choose whatever they want to do regarding anything else. They can join and serve the United States military. With that being said, like I said, the voting age should remain at 18, and anyone underneath 18 should be taxed on their paycheck.
How many people do you think are minors are actually working? And like the answer is quite small, so like that's not even going to be that significant of like a change. But I understand the sentiment. But at the end of the day, like 18-year-olds, when I turned 18, I was still in high school. I was still living like inside of my family's household. You're really not all that more separated. A lot of people when they're 18 are still like in their last year of high school. So like you're still very much like in the same circumstances that you are when you're 16. The only difference is that suddenly the state tells you that you can go get killed in another country, and now you're allowed to vote. And I just generally find that quite strange. That there's just this like really weird and arbitrary cutoff where like suddenly now you're able to go ahead and actually have a say in the government. Not saying that it makes anybody more like generally informed, but as you can see lately, we've been having these debates with like quite a few people that are minors inside of them. And I would hope that, like, considering that they seem a lot more politically engaged than the next person in my classroom, that they should be able to go ahead and vote. Like, if they're able to actually remember, like, what the branches of government are more so than a lot of adults, then yeah, like, what's wrong with giving them the right to vote? I just don't really understand, like, why is there this pushback against like having people have say in the country that they live in.
Because their brains are not fully developed.
Developed at 18 either. That's
I didn't get to finish. Now did I? I didn't get to finish. Now did I? Okay, so now I'm gonna finish. Okay, their brains are not fully developed. They're nowhere close. There's studies done that such as marijuana, nicotine, alcohol can affect the growing of the brain at that age, right? And so what I'm saying is that their brains are not anywhere close to being fully developed. They're still very much underneath their parents, right? So that they're still going through the rebellious stage, where they can decide to rebel against their parents just because it's their parents. And if you think that doesn't exist, then you live outside of reality.
I'm like 80 still have to rebel against my parents. I don't know, like that's just part of some people's situations. Like, and if I'm 23, drinking is my brain is not done developing. Smoking, my brain is still not done developing, and nicotine, my brain is still not done developing.
There's still a much less of a risk factor the later age that you do it in versus the earlier age you do it in.
Amanda, after Katarana, Amanda, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, if we're talking about like brain not being developed, should we go ahead and just like load up like a kid with liquor, and if he can still make it to the voting booth, then is he allowed to vote? Because like, at least his brain was developed enough to make it there. Like, I don't really understand. Like, the same thing applies to me. Like,
let's go. Please, madam.
Sorry. Yeah. So at 16 though, like kids are able to make informed decisions, and I was just briefly reading a couple points in regards to other countries that have lowered their age to 16, and Kat is entirely right. What happened was kids that wanted to vote actually engaged and learned much more about politics, and those who were running for office and made pretty informed decisions. So there was a referendum in Scotland that they tested it out and then ended up implementing it and lowering the age to 16 because of the positive results.
So real quick to respond to you, Spartacus, the reason I made the comment about 25 earlier is that's when we've generally said most people on average are basically fully done developing their prefrontal cortex and their brains are fully developed, quote, quote, as an average. None of us really want to move that age of adulthood to 25. Even as we live longer, we don't want to do that. So the argument here is, where is our split line? We say at 16, and younger than that in some states, that you can drive a large-ass metal cube at 60 miles per hour down the highway. If you can do that and not kill people, you can also vote. We had literally, 150 million people vote last election. I don't really see what the difference is by having a handful more 16-year-olds who decide not to vote.
Go ahead.
Wait, the ability to drive should be equality to the ability to vote.
I think, honestly speaking, if we trust you to be safe behind a vehicle, which we do for people as young as 16, then we probably trust your ability to make decisions of import, and thus you can probably vote.
Look, I think
voting has much harsher consequences.
Omni.
Yeah, I think that this like grandstanding about like, oh, we allow people to set a certain, we don't allow them to do Y at a certain, unbelievably stupid, given that the way that we should determine if a person should be allowed to do something at a certain age should be whether allowing them to do the thing at that age would make things go best in the long run. So it would result in generally the best consequences. There's a good case to be made that you get the best consequences by allowing 16-year-olds to drive. The question of whether or not allowing 16-year-olds to vote is an entirely separate case, and the consequences are entirely different because skill at driving does not in any way correlate with skill at voting.
So Omni, there is a 0.0 repeating for a while 1% chance that when you go and vote that you will die. If you drive, there is a much higher likelihood that you will be one of the statistic of 30,000 people per year who die in traffic fatalities. Why is it okay? And why do you think we have such utilitarian benefit to having 16-year-olds drive, yet they should not vote?
That's a straw man, Cancel, and you know it.
It's not.
Yeah, wait. No, I wasn't a strong man. Wait, I was. Can I answer the question?
Go ahead. I would like to point out why I thought it was a straw man, but go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, wait, sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question I asked is, I said, hey, there's probably a really, really small % chance that you die on your way to go do voting, especially if you mailed in your vote.
Yeah. Okay. I remember. Yeah, I remember the question. Well, yeah. There's, I think, a fairly compelling pragmatic case for allowing 16-year-olds to drive. And so, for example, 16-year-old driving to school it takes strain off their parents. A 16-year-old driving allows them to have increased independence from their parents. It allows them to, for example, if they are like working part-time at a job, it allows them to go there. Being able to drive is a useful skill that is important that brings about good consequences. While it's true that it results in a lot of deaths, I think the benefits of driving generally outweigh the costs of driving on aggregate. I think the voting question is entirely distinct because the skills in voting just don't translate over to being a good driver at all.
Okay, I think that's a fair response on me, and I would just ask you: do you have any piece of evidence which says that a 16-year-old voting would be a deleterious, finalized harm to us relative to an 18-year-old voting?
Well, I think 16-year-olds are generally less informed for like.
Do you have any data which says? Do you have any data which says that 16-year-olds are meaningfully less informed than 18-year-olds?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so the ability to operate a motor vehicle is almost explicitly different than the understanding of the government, the understanding of how the government works. And unless I'm wrong, most high schools don't teach economy or government until senior year of high school, which is around 17, 18 years old.
It all just depends on your system. We did US when I was in freshman year.
And on top of that, your high school is unlikely to teach you how to drive, period. You go to a specific driving school.
You want me to go to a specific driving school?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you don't get, like, when you have your schooling, you don't get driving at 14, so you'll be prepared at 16. That's not a thing we do.
Okay, but we also have a permit test. We also have a time when you can have your permit. You have to have so many logged hours before you can decide to take the driver's test. You have to pass a written test to get that permit. That way you can log the hours. That way you can take the driver's test, correct?
Right, yeah, for sure. And if you're over the age of 16 and 6 months in some states, then you can just do that without any of those permit pieces. Where I grew up, you could be as young as 15 years and 6 months, and you could do the permit process where you took down hours and you did driving school. But a year later, if I decide not to do that, a year later, I could have just gone and got a license by doing the driving test.
I mean, either way, we're talking about something that's completely irrelevant to voting.
I'm so
I think we've gone down a huge rabbit hole here that I'd like to drag us back out of. My statement again is I do not believe that minors should be taxed. I believe that once you become an adult in the legal standing, there's a reason we made 18 the age for adulthood. We can always go back and look. We can always go back and look at why 18 was decided to be the age we can vote, and maybe we can have a discussion there. So we can also look at why 18 was decided as the age you can serve. We can have a discussion there. We can look at. So with that being said, some places have different ages. You could reclaim this. So with that being said, Dylan. Okay, there we go. So with that being said, thank you, Dylan. I appreciate that. With that being said, I don't think that anyone underneath the age of 16, if you can't choose your representation, then you shouldn't be taxed. So like I said, 18, keep it the same age, and just don't tax anyone underneath 18.
Yeah. So okay. I want to reiterate.
Cat.
No, I think the age is very, very arbitrary. I think like when you go ahead and look at other countries, like they have different ages for everything. Canada has a drinking age of 18. Some countries have voting ages of 16. Some people like you're allowed to drive a car at 12. Like it's really, really fucking arbitrary. So like the reason why we went ahead and chose 18 could be just as arbitrary. And like none of us here actually know the specific reason why we chose 18. So I think it's just still worth having a conversation of, is this still worth having this as a specific age? Because as far as I'm aware, I don't see any reason why it's chosen except for LOL because it is because it's not the day, it's not the year that your brain's done developing. So it just seems arbitrary.
And
so
that is the round. Okay. To my audience, we are going to go into another round of voting. Right now, we're going to do another round of voting. You're going to be voting for which one of these amazing individuals you want to keep into the next round. We want to stay, right? Not who you want to leave, want to kick. Which of these individuals you want to keep into the next round, okay? You can vote for any particular reason, whether they are, you feel that their points were genius, or their points are funny or entertaining or whatever it is, right? But vote for that individual. I'm going to put a link in chat, and use that to vote. You'll have 5 minutes to do so, right? So get your votes in quick, right? And these, and you're voting for who gets to go into the final round. So the next round will be the final round. So you're gonna be voting for which one of these people makes it to there, right? So the link is in the chat. Links in chat. 5 minutes on the clock. Jump into it. Thank you. And you guys could talk. Omni, you had a question you want to ask someone?
I got my license just walking in, and because my day of birth fell on a day. I literally just walked in and they're like, "Oh, your birthday is on this day this month. You're lucky. You don't have to do anything."
What? I don't understand. Can you explain that?
Yeah, no. Me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Amanda,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get my license until I was 18, so I think that might have had something to do with it. And yeah,
You didn't have to take any sort
I
of driver's
didn't have my
test?
I didn't have my permit, and I did take a really stupid course that
Yeah, so
nothing, like online, and like printed off a certificate where like you could Google all the questions if you wanted to. And then I walked in with my certificate, and because my birthday fell on this special, like they have 2 days of a month that they don't require people to do the testing. So I just walked in and
I was gonna say, depending on your state, back in India, it was 16 years and 6 months. It wasn't quite the do no test like the written test, but you'd have to just do the driving course, and that was it.
So I do want to point this out because they asked why the voting age was 18, right? So I did find this. The voting age this was partly due to the Vietnam War, which saw 18-year-olds legally considered children at the time die in combat. This prompted Congress to lower the age of majority from 21 to 18. The age of adulthood, legal and cultural, actually varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, with an average age of 18. So.
Let's go to Omni. You want to say something?
Yeah, wait. So Sprout, okay. So why do you think that there should?
You're cutting out a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Why are you against taxation?
I'm against taxing minors because they don't have a choice in the representation, and I think if you don't have a choice in the representation.
Wait, sorry. Just to clarify. So I'm asking why. I'm asking why you think there should not be taxation. Wait, fuck.
Yeah.
Why am I cutting out?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, buddy.
Wait, can I try leaving and rejoining?
Yeah, you can try that. And everyone else, vote right now. The link is in chat. Vote right now for which of these individuals you want to stay and not who want to leave. Vote right now. The link is in chat. Now's the time to vote. Go ahead, Omni.
Okay, so my question is why do you think that there should not be taxation without representation?
Because I believe if you can't choose your representation, you can't be a part of how you can't decide how you're going to be taxed. You can't decide what this tax. Stop. I wasn't finished yet. You can't decide what your money's being used for. You can't decide practically anything. You can't decide if we're going to go to. You can't decide anything. So because you can't decide on who your leader is. With that being said, I don't believe you should be taxed to support a government in which you have no say.
Yeah, no, so you just sort of explained what no taxation without representation, what the phrase means. You did not give a justification. You just said, if you are not represented, then I don't think you should be taxed. I'm asking why you think that is the case.
Because you have no say in what your government does for you. Please open your ears. I think if you don't have a say, you shouldn't be forced to support it. I hear what you're saying. I'm asking why that makes it such that you should. You're just like defining what not being represented is, but you're not justifying why that means you shouldn't be taxed. No, I am. So if you don't have representation as to where your money goes, if you don't have representation as to how much you're being taxed, if you don't have representation, you're just
defining what.
No, listen, I'm giving a justification. This is a justification. I don't know how you don't realize this, Omni.
Wait, okay.
He's saying if you can't decide who to vote for, as in who represents you, then you shouldn't be taxed.
Right. And I'm asking why that is the case.
Because we went to a war over it, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah, because in 1776 we said fuck the Brits. All right, that's why.
I'm sorry.
Well, okay.
1619. That's the only date I remember.
That's how the Brits to fuck off quite yet. That's all I can say.
I mean, we also said some other pretty bad stuff in the Constitution, that these principles are malleable and people are very frequently taxed without being represented. So, for example, illegal immigrants pay sales taxes, and I think also income tax. I'm not sure, but they definitely pay sales taxes even though they can't vote.
And
Not
I
all
don't think
states pay
they
sales
should be.
tax.
We don't have a
should
federal
be
sales
here.
tax.
But well, no. But the question is not, do you think they should be here? The question is, given that they are here, do you think that they should be exempt from sales taxes because they're not being
No.
represented?
No,
Okay, so well, that seems to be taxation without representation.
because we are legally here.
And that
Well, okay, but it's okay.
That's our voting round right now. Thank you all for those who did vote, exercising your rights, right? Because again, like Sprout said, we kicked out the Brits for exactly that reason. Isn't that right, buddy? Okay, so we'll go on and see which person is number one, and by a vote, Katarana has made it once again. All right, your queen at the top. Well, not quite queen. Not there yet, but still. Cat, yep, is number one. And at the bottom, we have Omni. Who I thought put up a good fight. I thought he actually put up a really good fight and had some interesting conversation there. So thank you, Omni. And then Amanda. Okay, so there is only one person who will be picking, and that'll be Kat this time around, right? Because only one person is leaving. So, Omni, then Amanda. Please tell Kat why you should stay, and do it in the form of a grovel, right? Specifically in a grovel. If you're not groveling, it doesn't count.
Oh, great, Katarana. Immense in positive attributes and limited in negative attributes. I should stay. Given that, I mean, we got some right wingers here, we got some left wingers, but only I have the nuanced takes that cannot be predicted by that are not bound to either party, that transcend, that some are left wing and others are right wing. And I mean, we need a better representative than Sprouticus to represent the position that's slightly right of center. And on top of that, I mean, I just think my takes are just really intelligent, well thought out, well researched, as are yours, by the way.
Okay. All right.
Little do you know the topics before I come, but LOL.
So
yes,
Amanda.
Yeah, I will hop on the train. I also watch your streams and follow you. Not yet a subscriber, but we'll get there. I enjoy hearing your takes, and yeah, this has been super interesting, and I think you hold your own really well, and don't let people talk over you. And yeah, I aspire to be like you, and that's not a joke or not me pandering, but no, really, I do.
Okay.
Just a couple more spray tans, and you'll be there.
Okay, Kat. All right. So you have a mini me and then a person who thinks you actually research things. So which one? DM me, and we'll find out which one of these individuals has to stay, which one she actually likes, which one of these individuals that she doesn't mind breaking their hearts, right? They'll never recover whoever you toss out. I want you to know that. For fuck's sakes, Kat. Their hearts won't recover. Emotionally broken. It'll be all your fault. But please DM me. Oh, all right. Well, that makes sense then. All right. Well then, thank you, Amanda, for joining us. Appreciate it. But this will be your final round. Maybe one day you'll make it to a stream queen. But yeah.
Hopefully my skills get a little bit better here. I'm still recovering from COVID brain, so sometimes those thoughts are hard to connect and it takes me a minute. But yeah, you can follow me, Amanda Smash, Twitter, Twitch. I will hopefully start streaming here soon, And yeah, as always, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks so much. All right. Okay. So, all right, this is the final round. Okay. At the end of this round, you'll vote and you'll be voting for the winner. But we are going into our final round right this second, and we only have winners, only killers here. Okay, only the best of the best, the cream of the crop has made it. Also, we have Sprouticus.
Oh, come on.
I love you, buddy. All right. So, final question. We are moving into a water-scarce future, where droughts will be more common, even in rich nations. Okay, I love the I love the energy, Omni. All right. If there are certain crops that are water-intensive, such as almonds, should we ban them altogether? All right. So there's some crops, and you just a little explanation for the audience. There are some food crops that we grow that simply take more water than others, right? They are more water intensive, and should we decide, right, that this is an activity that this crop is not necessary, right, and that we should ban it, whatever it is, because we want to save that water, and save like our reservoirs, right? That we should decide to just ban this crop, at least being grown on an industrial level. Okay, 15 minutes left on the clock. Go, go, go.
I would say that
obviously not.
No, I would say that they should go ahead and ban these types of crops from being done on an industrial level. But there are some places in which the environment is naturally able to go ahead and continue to supply. So, for example, like Haiti goes ahead and grows its own almonds, and it's not done via reservoirs and stuff. It's from rainfall in some areas is just high enough that it's able to go ahead and be continuously cropped up, and I think that's fine. But on the industrial level, if it's gone ahead of we're gonna almonds in Arizona, yeah, nah, I'm good. Probably not.
All right, so I got a hardcore disagree. You go first, Omni. You go first.
Obviously not. So the solution, if people are using too much water, is to allow the price of water to rise. Currently, there are regulations that prevent the price of water from rising. And so if we raise the price of water, then we incentivize people to use less water. Currently, it's kept it below market price, which is why there are shortages of water. And that would have the effect of making it so that people don't waste water, for the same reason that people don't waste diamonds, because diamonds are valuable. If the price of water went up, then people would use less water. Given that we obviously don't want zero use of water, we want some use of water. The best way to figure out the optimal use of water is to figure out the use of water that would occur at a higher price, which is why free markets are a good way of allocating goods. It's why the 81% of economists agree a market-based system is the best way to tackle externalities.
So here's Sprouticus.
Let me finish his point. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, the claim made by this resolution that we're going to have these massive water shortages is just wrong. These frightening forecasts about how we're going to run out of water are not true. The amount of water scarcity predicted is decreasing globally. I mean, these claims about how we're going to run out of water are a myth. There's just tons of empirical data. For example, China is reducing their use of agriculture, which is going to result in less water use. China reduced its water consumption by 30%.
All right, so Sprouticus go, so you can all three have wrong takes, then I'll go.
Okay, and before you say anything, I just want to say to Omni, dude, you are absolutely priceless, and you are always consistent. I love you for that. Just want to put that out there. Go ahead, Sprouticus.
So, Katarana, I want to thank you for keeping Omni on the panel. Just because of that take.
Free markets were gonna come up somehow.
So I do not think that the price of water should be extremely malleable. That way, the poor can't drink water in what is necessary to survive. That seems like an absolutely asinine take. With that being said, it's a phenomenon here, but I kind of agree with Katarana. I think it should be a state-by-state regulation. in states that have higher droughts, like Arizona, like California. Let's let them decide what crops are gonna be legal to grow there, and what crops aren't gonna be legal to grow there, and then we'll move that state by state, such as Indiana, who doesn't really have any drought issues, might be able to support growing these crops. And so it needs to be a state by state regulation rather than a federal regulation.
Okay,
Wait,
so
Spartacus.
let me get my point in, all right? Everyone here was halfway to a good point, okay? Katarana was absolutely getting there whenever she said, hey, we should worry about this. We should do this in ways that are less water intensive, like using rainfall. Wrong when she said to ban it. Omni was on the right path when he said, hey, part of this issue here is us regulating other types of industries, like regulating the price of water. As Sprout pointed out, he's definitely wrong, though, because we don't want the poor not to be able to drink. And then Sprout is wrong because this is not a specific thing that needs to go state to state, okay? There are tons of water-intensive crops. Rice, alfalfa, hay, freaking alcohol as we produce it is water-intensive. It's a silly fucking metric. If we want to have a conversation specifically about almonds and how they're not very nutritious relative to their water content, that's fair. It's a reasonable thing to worry about. Maybe we have some regulations on it. We shouldn't ban it. We should maybe consider having specific regulations which say how much water you're allowed to use for some type of plant, but not outright banning the concept of high-intensive, water-intensive products or crops. Otherwise, we're having a neo-temperance movement, which no one on this panel would be for.
Okay, but localities already do this, right? Localities, when there's droughts, they already do this. They say you can't water your grass. So it's like they already do this. They don't allow you to do certain things when there's droughts, right? So it needs to be a state by state thing, if not a locality thing.
So I would say
it is a state by state thing. The question is about what the states should do.
It needs to be decided in the locality or as close to locality as we can get it.
Right. So like I said, some regulation on waste of water makes sense, but we could have better production, better technology to take your gray water from your freaking shower and use that to water your lawn. It's a little bit silly to say, hey, we need to ban almonds, or hey, let the price of water skyrocket. We still regulate the price of milk.
Well, I think it's just even banning some of these things, because some of these things can just go ahead and be imported. I'm just thinking that it would be smarter to go ahead and let some of the countries that are able to naturally grow it without having to use all of this additional resources be the ones that produce it, and then we can go ahead and have it imported.
I think that's a slightly. I think that's a slightly. One second. I think Colorado's point there gets closer to how I feel, and it's a better take. Hey, if we could culturally down limit the amount of almonds we produce here, and we instead decide to import them because it's better to make those in a different portion of the globe, that sounds great. But if we're having a conversation about banning things that are water intensive, there are so many crops which we desperately need. We can't ban rice because you need full rice paddy fields to make it, right? The idea that we would ban things just because they take a lot of water isn't really backed up by how things actually work. Otherwise, there'd be no food in Singapore. Let's start working on technology like vertical farming and things like that. There are ways that we can fix this problem which don't require that we make it so that poor people can't afford water and that we can't ever grow almonds again.
So I'm not saying ban almonds, but what I am saying is what we can do is look at it state by state. Katarana, I hope I'm saying that right, Katarana. But if she's talking about different countries being able to go this. Things can differ greatly state by state. One state can have completely different issues than a different state. California consistently has issues with droughts, right? Indiana, you don't have very many issues with droughts at all. In fact, you have issues with floods. So like I said, this needs to be a locality thing. It needs to go down to the as local as we can get it, to make sure that we are actually looking at the facts on the ground before we make such a decision.
So Sprout, my question to you would be, real quick, thinking of a drought state like California, which has Martha's Vineyard, should California be outlawed from producing alcohol?
The vineyard of grapes?
Yeah.
Okay, the vineyard of grapes, actually, so if you want to talk about grapes, we can talk about grapes. Grapes are actually to make the good wine, grapes actually need to struggle to survive. You need to water it less. That way the grapes actually have to physically struggle, and then grapes turn into good wine. If grapes grow too easily, it does not make good wine.
So this is why vineyards are slightly less water intensive than something like rice, but to produce actual alcohol, to do fermentation processes for basically all forms of alcohol, including wine, that also takes a lot of water.
So let's get
specifically requires a lot of water.
Omni, please.
Yeah. So okay. the things that are being pointed out is that there is not a good one-size-fits-all solution. So it's not good to ban a crop entirely like almonds, because there are some important uses for almonds, so we don't want the production to be zero. We don't want the use to be too much. People are talking about desalination. You would get all of these if you allowed the price of water to rise. It would not rise very much. It would only rise a little bit. And so the cost for poor people to get water would only increase very slightly. But the cost to have a hamburger, which requires thousands of gallons of water, would rise more considerably. And so as a result of that, you get more water intensive industries rising. There's a reason why you don't have shortages of other goods where we don't have regulations keeping them below the market price. I was surprised that Sprouticus, a constitutional conservative, went and came out in favor of regulations that keep it below the market price. If we want poor people to have access to water, one, it would have barely any effect because it would only increase the price slightly. But two, we can give poor people money so that they can still have access to water, but making it so that we just drop it below the market price such that we get shortages, which every economist would agree that when you
Okay, so I don't think you have ever seen the way things work when we just let it go ahead and be regulated based off of supply and demand. There's this really cool thing called the Texas snowstorm where people's electricity prices went through the fucking roof. So
that was a good thing. That was a good thing because it resulted. No, I mean it was right. No.
Let him explain why it was a good thing, please.
Yeah, no. So, this is counterintuitive, but as a result of the rising prices, more people who otherwise would not have gone into the industry did, given the increased hazard, and so you got increased provision of those things. And so there's well documented literature that explains how when you restrict the ability of prices to rise in the time of a crisis, you just get shortages, you get less provision of things, you get way worse outcomes. This sounds really counterintuitive, but it's just been borne out time and time again.
Okay, so
Omni,
we can look at many different things besides Texas. We can look at toilet paper and how people were trying to price gouge on that. People are going to try and price gouge in times of emergency, such as droughts. They're going to try and price gouge water. And considering water is essential for survival.
Yeah, and there's
I don't think water should be price gouged. Okay, so we're talking about competition now.
We don't live in a situation where you can have perfect competition. Your water that comes to your tap in your house comes from one pipeline, from one water source, governed by one person or one company.
Well, no,
it's not a situation where you have
all the water.
You can't all go lay new fucking pipeline to your house tomorrow. It costs $20,000 for you to take a house.
You're breaking up. Sorry, cancel. You're just breaking up. You might have to leave the Discord and come back in.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So that is distinct from utilities are distinct from the regulation of water generally. Given that utilities, they are by their nature they result in natural monopolies because the long run average cost curve is downward sloping for the entire length of it. And so utilities are an entirely separate issue. And I think that it's appropriate to have regulations on utilities. Well, I support the Kosian scheme of reverse auctioning, but that would take some time to go into. But utilities are distinct from water. In water, there is a competitive market. You can get water from multiple places. You can get water from Nestle, or you can get it from other companies that sell water.
Omni. When you purchase water, or when you're using water to grow crops, you don't buy bottled water from Nestle and pour it on the field. You have irrigation from a specific water line, likely specifically laid out as a pipeline.
Places that
there aren't, though. Much like electricity, these are run by a very small handful of companies per locality space because it costs too much money. It's a bridges to this other company to come in and attempt to lay their own pipes. Instead, it is owned by some company that laid those pipes 100 years ago. That's why we still have lead in Flint, Michigan. That's why we still have lead in my city in the pipelines, because they were laid that long ago. This is not a market which can reasonably see competition. It's part of my argument earlier about whether or not water intensivity matters. Right now, as it stands, you cannot get a different water provider tomorrow, which is not going to happen, or it'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, no. So if in places where water is a utility and provision, where there's only access to one water company that provides for an entire area, then I think regulations are appropriate. Now, in that case, I would support a system of reverse auctioning. So yeah, they give the right, so people agree on the price that water will be sold at, and then they auction off the ability to sell water as the only person who can sell water at the lowest price. And so, but if people are not provided access to water, they can sue. So as a result of that, you would have an incentive for provision of water. But I mean, in many cases, like I don't think that big agriculture uses public utilities to.
Okay, we gotta let some other people in. On time left spot.
So, do you want Flint, Michigan water? I mean, I'm just asking because you said we're gonna do it by the lowest possible price, and that was your only contention on auctioning off the ability to sell water to people. So I mean, I'm just asking. No, you said someone wasn't able to get water, not the quality of the water, right? So
I said
do you want
access to clean water?
Do you want Flint, Michigan water? I'm just asking. Do you want
because
it?
If people have like unclean water, then they would be able to sue and win lots of money.
Well, here's the problem with that, Omni. Here's the problem, right? So if you give it to the lowest bidder, guess what's going to happen? The lowest bidder isn't going to be completely prepared to do this, and they're going to have their asses sued off because the water is contaminated. The water is no longer good, and then maybe the government will step in and choose someone else to run the water at the lowest bid, and then their equipment isn't going to be very good, so their equipment's going to fail, and then you're going to keep going through this if you're not going to look at the integrity of these businesses. If you're not going to continue to look, if you're just going to go at lowest bid, then I 100% disagree with what you're saying.
Well, that's what the market said. Well, real quick, the problem, that's the market incentive.
It was not just the lowest bidder. It was the lowest bidder, but then they have to provide access to people for clean, safe water. In terms of the claim that people would just be sued into oblivion if they're providing access to clean, safe water, then they will not be sued into oblivion because the people will lose their cases or they'll be dismissed as slap suits. And
okay,
most states are anti-slap.
Omni, this falls into a similar problem we had before. You're assuming that the people that you called so uneducated they probably shouldn't vote will be able to understand that their water was specifically deleterious to their health, and also manage to retain a lawyer to go sue another company, okay? But they'll even be able to know which company produces their water. You are asking a lot of rational actors relative to that.
And that is, thank you. All right, to my audience. What's gonna happen? To my audience, we are going to now vote for the winner, right? The champion. You're gonna be a vote and decide who the champion is. We're gonna put a link in chat. You will use that link. You will vote for the person you think should be the winner. It's all up to you. Okay, all right. And this part is important. This part's extremely important, right? You'll have 5 minutes to do it. 5 minutes. No complaining after that 5 minutes that you didn't get the vote, right? And then your person lost by 1 or 2 votes. That's happened many times here. It's happened a bunch of times here. All I require you to do is vote within 5 minutes. It's plenty of time. It's plenty of time. So please accomplish this one task. Vote within 5 minutes for the individual here that you want to be the champion, right? So I'm gonna put the link in chat, and I'm gonna hope that you can follow these those very, very basic instructions. Okay, all right, but we'll see. All right. So here we go. 5 minutes left on the clock. Vote right now. Vote right now. Okay, vote this second. 5 minutes left. No fucking complaining afterwards, please. I would love that. I would really love that. All right, go ahead. You can say whatever you want, Omni.
Yeah, so I just want to say that like the water policy that I've added harebrained scheme that's unique to me. It's been proposed by Nobel Prize winning economists. I think it was originally devised by Ronald Coase, and it's been tried and it's generally worked out in as a way of regulating utilities. Now, I don't think that it's been done for water specifically, but I think it's been done for like electricity, and it generally results in better outcomes and more efficiency. Because when the private sector is running something, it's generally done more efficiently than the government, because they have aligned incentives. In terms of the point that was brought up by Cancel the Communists about the like inefficient, about how people are stupid, so how can they do well in a market? So the problem is less that people are stupid, and the problem is more that they don't have an incentive to be politically informed because they're very unlikely to flip the election. But people do have an incentive to make sure that they're getting clean water. and that they have water to drink. And so as a result of that, you would expect greater rationality. And if people don't, like if some people are rational, though anyone can sue if they're not being provided access to clean water. And so as a result,
okay, so Omni, okay, I guess it's a better way to put it. You require that this company produces clean water for you, and yet at the same time would expect that they have basically no regulations and are the freest market with the lowest common bidder. This was the point Spot was trying to get to and was a little off of. You expect that they will be up to regulatory standard without any regulations, but also they have to be up to regulatory standards so that they're clean and safe, so you don't sue them to oblivion. This is not how our system works.
No,
otherwise we would actually go ahead.
Yeah, no. So you're confused. So there is regulation in terms of the end product, i.e., the water that is being provided, but there are no specific standards. So they don't say like, well, companies have to like do this to clean the water. But if the water is not clean, then people can sue. So as a result, you get privatized schemes for figuring out the best way to clean and purify water, which is the most efficient approach, given that privatization generally results in much better outcomes than a government-run program.
Okay, so how do you determine what is quote unquote clean water?
Well, there would be like standards that would be set that determine if water is clean. Like the EPA already does this and has a standard that determines if water is like.
Why not have private industry do it? Because they're government and they're going to do it wrong.
Yeah, if the private industry is so efficient, why shouldn't they do it?
Well, no, because there's no way to like adequately align private institution or private to like privatize the standards to make it so that people have a market incentive to come to good standards. I mean, maybe. Well, I guess
this might be why we Omni. This might be why we regulate the price of water specifically, so that it doesn't follow market forces away from a valuation which poor people can afford.
Well, okay. Do you remember my answers to the arguments about how like poor people will be unable to afford it?
No, I agree. I'm just letting you know that the reason we ever regulated water, regulated milk, was to specifically keep it from a market running away.
That is obviously disanalogous, and the reason why that is disanalogous is because. The distinction is that one is about people having an incentive to come to the correct conclusion about the standards, and then the other one is just it's not about misaligned incentives. In the case of poor people not being able to have water, it's just about like lack of funds. And so, like, do you have an argument that as to why like it would result in misaligned incentives?
So why? Okay, sorry. Repeat your question. Which would
do you have an argument as to why like the incentives would be misaligned under the system that I've proposed?
Okay, yeah. I would agree to an extent with what Sprout said, which is if you intend to have your value be the lowest possible cut, the lowest possible bidder, that their incentive is to, pretend or meaningfully sway regulators to look like they are doing the best that they possibly could, but then cut money elsewhere. A private market wishes at its core to be the most profitable it can be. So it'll be, in this case, as an example, 90%. Yeah, it exists basically everywhere, right? And I would say I would worry about having a company specifically running something that is a necessary good, which is why I was cool with decommodifying food earlier. I am worried about a private industry running things in this form of safety. When it comes to water, I think it's a public utility which should be given to every American that's a citizen with a house effectively, that your tap should be free and not be a bill that you have to pay.
Well, okay, but if you give it to everyone free, then you'll get shortages, which is why we have shortages of water.
So I would argue that we already have shortages of water is an example of why a private market does not work, right? You would say, hey, no, that's just a government problem. I would highly disagree. The reason why we have
shortages of water is because we have regulations that artificially keep the price of water below the price of what it would be in a market.
I made the comment before that you want at one time to both have a ton of regulation and not have a ton of regulation. Your argument is an Ouroboros unto itself. I know that you don't think it is.
No,
but it's what it is.
So we have regulations of one, but then we don't have regulations of another type. So we don't have regulations on
the voting round. Okay, all right. Now we will decide. You will decide who is the champion. And to my audience, just so you know that yes, we'll find out the champion. We'll name the champion. And afterwards, though, the stream does not end. We will continue on to the open walk-on panel. We'll still have content after this, right? So this is not the end of the stream, So there's no need to leave once you find out who has become the champion. We still have much, much, much more content waiting for you. So stick around, all right? So I'm gonna refresh, and we will find out. Wow. Okay. All right. At the bottom, even though I know I like them. I like hanging out with this person. I like this person coming through and sharing their ideas. Omni, you've come in fourth place, but I thought you were a hell of a competitor, and I mean that. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I actually mean that. Really appreciate you coming through and being fearless about sharing your ideas. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Wow, so charismatic. All right, no wonder he made it to this place. No, that's okay. Look, that's fine. We'll give you an outro later on. Don't worry about it. All right. Next, another person who put up a hell of a fight. A hell of a fight. Cancel the communist. Cancel. Like you made it to the final round.
Hey, so the problem, Prime, is I made it to the final round in my first run too. I was just in last place in every voting round.
Well, you weren't last place here, okay? So,
yeah, it wasn't. I got like a consistent third place. It was much better. Thank you, chat.
Yeah, you're rising, and I think chat's getting used to it. But seriously, no, I think you've done fantastic. I really enjoyed hearing from you. I love people who are willing to jump in on whatever it is and give their interesting perspectives, and you do that every time. So seriously, you are very much appreciated here. Okay, and now only two left. We'll have a runner-up, right? A runner-up who has also been a great competitor. A runner-up who we love the both, right? We love the two remaining both equally, right? But only one can be the winner. Katarana, you've done an amazing job of not winning this time around. So Sprouticus is our champ, number one. All right, buddy. It's happened. We've had a straight up, no screwing around conservative has finally run the Royale. You have done it. Hey, we don't need all these other people on the screen. We need a winner on the screen. All right. So Sprouticus, you have done. You're a person I actually really like. I appreciate having you here. We don't agree on lots of things, but I like hearing your opinions. I love that you're always willing to come in and share and do it with such a great attitude, buddy. So I'm super excited to have you as our first conservative, straight up conservative winner. How you feeling, buddy?
I feel great. I want to thank everybody who decided to vote me. You guys are the ones that made it happen. I'm just firm to my beliefs, and I'll always stay firm to my beliefs, whether or not I'm given a lot of crap for it. But thank you guys. This win is for conservatives, one and all. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, I love it. I'm gonna put your name up on the screen. Do you prefer the Sprouticus or I am Sprouticus?
The Sprouticus.
The Sprout. Yes. Okay. Love it. Look at this man, right? That smile. That's the smile of a champ, okay? And he did it, and he just did a fantastic job. Thank you for being a great competitor and a good sport, because you've been here a few times, and you've lost, but you've come back, and I don't know. It's just happy to have you around. Thank you, buddy.
It's the story of the underdog, Prime.
Goddamn right. All right, let's go back to these losers. All right, Katarana, thank you as well for coming through.
Hey, can I give another shout out? I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
Another shout out.
Yeah, you're a winner. Okay. You can do that.
So I want to give a shout out to the Wolfpack CTV. He helped a lot out in my victory. And I want to give a shout out to BX Bullet TV. They both helped out. They both came in strong, and we now have a win. It's all conservatives. Me sitting up here on this throne, it's for all conservatives. Okay, we finally got a conservative winner.
Hey, that's just how the cookie crumbles. All right, I'll take it. All right, CTV BX Bullet. We've also had on the show a long time ago. Thanks for being around. All right, but Katarana, runner up. How does it feel to not make the crown this time? Former stream queen.
Yeah, so we're about to do a drinking bleach ASMR. So come through. Yeah, that's how it feels.
Oh boy, Karana, another person. She's a mod here, but not only a mod. She helps put these panels together. She does a lot of hard work behind the scenes, like a ton of it. Like some of the best panels we've had recently is because of Katarana and all the things that she does for us, right? So, oh fuck. Anyway, no, this way. It's flipped to my screen. Whatever. Fuck. Let's. Sorry. But she is amazing. I have nothing but love for her. So I'm so happy that she could join us here. And maybe she'll be stream queen once again in the future. But she's one of the queens of my heart for all the things that she does for this community. All right. Katarana, we'll shout you out. Thank you so much, friend.
Oh yeah. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, just to own the conserves, we're gonna go ahead and play Just Dance after this sensually, just so that I can hurt all their Judeo-Christian values. So if you want to see Booba, go to my stream.
Okay, next. All right, we will go to Omni. Omni, again, thank you so much for being so kind as help us out. And join in and share your views. Very much appreciated. So Omni, go ahead and tell the world about yourself.
No problem. So I have a YouTube channel. It's Theater. I mostly talk about religion, well, about atheism more accurately, and why I think why I'm an atheist. You should check it out. Though I also talk about other stuff, though it's mostly like philosophy stuff.
Omni, can you actually put your YouTube channel in Prime's chat, because my chat was asking for your link?
Yeah. Just put it's just simple that way.
Yeah.
But while he works.
Yeah, I mean, right. I think like I don't know. My takes generally I think are like less insane sounding than they are on PrimeCayes, but I like to express my more
Omni
outrageous takes on PrimeCayes.
Omni, if you could please, I know I've already taken up so much of your time. If you could please come on to the open walk-on panel. If you could please, I'm begging you, Omni, come on to the open walk-on panel so we can examine those views. Would you do that for us? I don't. You might be busy. I don't know, but
yeah, sure.
Thank you, Omni. Thank you for that, Omni.
But only for a short time.
Okay, sure. That's fine. It's fine. But we'll have fun. Next, we have Cancel the Comments. Again, a great sport and a great competitor. And I'm happy to see him making it to the final round. And hopefully he will be a stream queen one of these days. Omni, Cancel.
So Cancel the Communist. You can find me at twitch.tv/Cancel the Communist. My Twitter's twitter.com at Cancel the Commie, COMMIE. And I have a YouTube channel as well, but I don't really use that very often. So find me wherever you want. I do debates. It was very fun having this. Katarana, you made me laugh more than I expected throughout most of this debate. Very fun. It was interesting to be here to see the conservative win. I will be redeemed, okay? I'm going to win one of these.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, we have our champ, right? The one who really matters here. Our champ, who stands atop all the others, right? The Sprouticus. Sprouticus, tell everyone where they can find a winner.
You can find the winner at the Sprouticus on Twitch. I'll be having a after party after this, so we're gonna be just celebrating the conservative finally won this. I don't know how long it's been, but oh my goodness, it's been coming. All right, so we're just happy to get the win here. But you can find me on Twitter at the Sprouticus as well.
All right, we are done here, but we are continuing on to open walk-on panel. We will have more content for you right after this. Stream is not ending, right? So no need to go anywhere. Any you want to hear is welcome to join us on the open walk-on panel, but if not, that's okay. Thank you for spending your time, your energy, your knowledge, and your passion here with my audience. I know they appreciate you as much as I do. Have a good one.